Well, welcome, y'all so-and-sos, to It's Gavin and Games, yes, but it is a, we're just kind of playing with the formula, not permanently, just for this show. Maybe we'll do it if people like it. This is called Fanboy Fights. What it is we take 4 to 7 of the hottest topics in the world of video games. We put it up for a vote on the YouTube high technology there. And then after we put it up for a vote, we discuss it, we debate it. I am live right now in the Diet Soda Theater. If anyone wants to come in and talk live, the red phone is on. If people don't get obnoxious with it, I will keep it on. Each topic we have 11 minutes to discuss, debate, converse about, and then we will vote again and come up with a final answer. So let me say hello to everybody, see how everybody's doing, give some people time to sally forth into the Diet Soda Theater over on our Discord. The link is below in the about this video on YouTube. And we will get started. Somebody was asking what I thought about the Twisted Metal trailer that just dropped. I have a video about it. It'll be going live tomorrow. High concept was, I was very excited by it. Very, very positive. For a variety of reasons. I don't think you look at it and go, that's the best fucking trailer ever. But I personally, am terribly biased, and I think they did a lot of good regarding capturing aspects of the essence of the show that I really care for and like. So I enjoyed that. Listen to this. We got a couple of Capcom and Resident Evil. God damn this hat. I love my hat, but my God, it keeps bopping into my microphone. Listen, we got some Capcom conversations today on the show. A lot of it is because I'm finally getting around to trying to finish Resident Evil. I just hit chapter 14 or 13 or whatever, and obviously I'm loving it, but it begs a number of questions that we will be talking about on today's show. So let me take a sip of the bubbly and say thank you to the mods. Thank you to the members for allowing these crazy shows and crazy adventures of mine and ours actually to continue. I appreciate all the support. I'm glad to have you here today. There is Bran in the chat. Bran, if you don't know, we did a great conversation interview on the show a couple days ago. He is directing the Capcom sanctioned Resident Evil documentary about George Romero, the famous, wonderful godfather of horror, who was directing a Resident Evil movie. He also directed the Resident Evil 2 commercial in Japan, and then he was unceremoniously fired. And you're talking about firing the guy who created the modern zombie. So if you're curious about that, give a listen to the interview on this very channel, and then stay tuned for his documentary coming out pretty fucking soon. Man Cave, you goddamn right. Thank you for that super chat, buddy. He says, smash that like button. You goddamn, take your penis out or your vagina and use your clit and smash that goddamn like button. Shut up. Like, I can say that if I want to. All right. We got Deader X has just joined the Discord, just like you can. The link is below. Put yourself in the Diet Soda Soldier. All right, let's get started. Let's talk about this. Man Cave, thank you for that. For support and suggestion and all that good stuff. Lutron says use the bean. Is that what they call the clitoris? The bean? Never heard anybody call it the bean before. Anyway, let's start. Let's begin. Topic number 1. I like to call it, and you're gonna have to give me a little bit of a delay, only because to make a poll, I have to take a second to type it. You can't pre-create the polls, right? It's dumb. But I have them already done, so it looks like I just have to copy paste them. So the first one is what I call crunchy or smooth. And basically, this is, I don't want to QA, you son of a bitch. I want something different. Flick the bean. I have never heard it called the bean before. Interesting. Flicking the bean is a common expression. It's pretty old, like 80s, 90s. Well, I'm fucking a 70s, 80s kid. I never fucking heard it. Then again, I was driving around my best friend in the back. He was in the back of my car, my very first car, which was a green Buick Skylark from like 1978, 76, whatever it was. And he's with this friend of ours. And I've told the story before, but I still to this day, she's in the back and she's like, and I was just kind of like going, oh shit, is she okay? And I'm like, hey, are you all right back there? And my friend's like, she's fine. She's fine. And I thought she had like a stomach ache because we just gone to Fuddruckers or some such nonsense. Turns out he was giving her first fingering in the back of my Skylark. And maybe he was flicking the bean. I don't fucking know. I've never heard flicking the bean. There's Ricky E. Ricardo Estevez. Good sir Ricardo is here. Listen to me. This is called crunchy or smooth. Okay. Of course, God forbid. YouTube would give me enough characters. Okay, hang on. Let me type it. Okay, I want you got to do a little bit of fucking work on this one though, fellas. And when it comes to what you're going to vote on, because there's a little more nuance that will not fit in the actual poll, okay, or in the name of the poll. And I'm sorry about that. But if you look on the screen in just a second, you will be able to see. Again, I would have loved to have had this ready for you, but that's YouTube for you. All right, if we go to the actual fanboy fight screen, here we go. Fight number 1, crunchy or smooth. Basically, this topic is in the news, of course, because we're dealing with Jedi Survivor that just came out a couple days ago. I own it. It's installed. It's ready to play. Haven't played it yet. Been busy trying to finish Resident Evil. But from what I hear, and not just the PC version, but I'm hearing about crashes on the Xbox and the PS5 version, not to mention just tearing on the screen and a lot of frame rate issues. And so here's my question. Here's what I really am curious about, okay? Is crunch worth it? I'm going to put a vote up in a second. You can vote on the numbers, and then we're going to talk. We'll set a timer, debate it, and we'll see if the votes change, okay? Is crunch worth it? Crunch is worth it is choice A, if the games get made are innovated and ship without crazy offensive bugs. So I don't know if the team at who made it, the Stig's team, what are they called, the Respawn, I don't know if they crunched on this particular game, but on the whole I think there is a semi correlation, at least if not straight up in most cases, I guess, where the more you work on the game, the harder you work on the game, the longer you work on the game in terms of, crunch time, the game will be more innovative and the game will be able to ship in a more playable state than Survivor is. Now, that's debatable. You can point to CD Projekt Red, blah, blah, blah. But for the sake of argument and the sake of generally that's more the way it goes than not, let's assume that's the theory for A. Crunch is worth it if the games are innovative and ship without the kind of bugs Survivor has. Another complaint I've seen in the reviews of Survivor is it's really good, meaning Jedi Survivor. But it's kind of just built on the bones of the other one, and it's more of the same, and you've played it before, and it's better, and it's good, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. Number B, come on now. Crunch is not worth it, is the second option you got. They're better to ship games that are good enough, and they're buggy and playable, like Jedi is, at least on console, but within, 2 weeks to 2 months, it's all going to get sorted out, and you're going to be fine. Probably cheaper to buy than anyway. And plus, you don't have to crunch people and make them, feel like total horrible humans and ruin their lives and marriages and whatnot. So, I'm going to ask community. The poll is going up. Crunchy or smooth? Crunch is worth it or crunch is not worth it? Now, again, don't just come at me and just vote because you like or dislike crunch. I want you to vote because you're listening to the topic, and it's not that you like or not. It's like, remember, if you don't crunch in this topic, you're going to get the kind of sloppy games you ship with when it comes to Survivor. Here we go. Oh, yeah, Ricardo play. Well, hang on. Let me pop it up here. Ask your community. Okay, there goes. So I will give it, I'm going to give it half the timer. There we go. The timer is start. We have 11 minutes of topic. And we'll see what you guys come up with, and then we're going to pause it and finish debating and discussing, and then we'll vote and see where it ends up. Ricardo says he's playing Survivor. He played it for 10 minutes, decided to wait for a few patches. So I'm assuming what you're saying is that you did notice enough bugs and problems in the game that you feel that the complaints at least are correct, that it's a problem on the console side. There is no C. Jojo D's already fucking up the show. He says, delay the games until they're ready at a loss to profits. It'll never happen. I vote A, though. I mean, delay the games until they're ready to play But that's basically saying the game can be ready to play if you crunch. If you don't crunch, I mean, you're still basically saying that you're choosing a more kind take on it where the companies take a financial loss and their people don't crunch. But that's not really ever an option. Joe says, is Survivor on PS5 bad? My understanding is that it is noticeably problematic, but it's not a problem like the PC is a problem. It's a problem as it relates to screen tearing, a little frame rate, and crashing. Jake Z says there's frame rate and screen tearing issues on PS5. Otherwise, it's great, right? I've heard of crashes as well. Arathizzle says, you don't know, Jaffe. Crunch could have caused the issues with recent games. Sure, it could. But those are isolated concepts. On the whole, you know, let's put it this way. Sony puts out its games. God of War Ragnarok ran not because everybody was going home at 5 o'clock, right? Horizon Forbidden West is one of the prettiest games of all time, not because everybody was going home at 5 o'clock. Now, you could talk to some of the people at Insomniac, and I have, about their way of dealing with crunch. And a lot of what they do is, to be fair, they kind of make... I mean, I love Insomniac games. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PS5 is one of my favorite games I've played in the last 5 years. Spider-Man Miles Morales is probably the best superhero game ever made. However, a lot of their stuff is built on the bones of a lot of stuff they've done before. Very few people come to Insomniac and say, from a gameplay standpoint, wow, they are insanely innovative. That's not what they do. That's not what they do. And in that, they've managed to sort of say, hey, we can do this in a more humane way, which is great if you don't mind not having, you know, the next amazing piece of progress when it comes to the industry. Somebody's asking, can I call on the red phone? They're overseas. You can put yourself in the Discord. That won't cost you anything. Let me get some of these members. I appreciate it, fellas. They say, Random Moose Brain been a member for 30 months. Good God. He says, crunchitize me, Captain. Okay, so you're voting for the crunch. Let's see. Eddie T says, I wish consumers would stop pre-ordering AAA games. There's no incentive for devs or publishers to ship a polished and functional game when they keep selling millions on launch day. I mean, ultimately, yeah. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If people push back, which they don't, I mean, I'm waiting. I'm very curious what the sales are, even just in Europe, in England, in the UK. We'll know tomorrow how the boxed edition of Jedi sold. So let's see. Let's fucking see. Maybe it'll be that people just kind of go, okay, we get it, enough. You know, somebody was telling me on my stream the other day, they said, they said, you know, I have such a backlog anyway that why in the world anybody buys brand new games, I don't fucking know. Because ultimately, you know, these games are going to be at least 20. Harry Potter, you can get for $20 off the $60 price right now. Callisto Protocol, you can get $30 off. You can get it for $30, and that's only a couple of months old. So unless you're kind of, you know, talking about games like we do on this show, or you're just the most hardest of the hardcore, why you would buy the fucking game day one anyway, I don't know. Magnum Gaming, thank you for the super chat. He says crunch is overtime. Things that have been happening are suddenly called something that sounds worse, like exclusivity is now called money hatting. Well, okay, I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate your point. However, overtime is a bit of an odd word because a lot of people, when they hear the term overtime, they think, oh, there's pay that goes along with it. And if you are a contractor, you're right. But if you are like most people, at least in America and probably a lot of Europe in the video game industry, you are a salaried employee, which means that you can work overtime all good goddamn day, into the night, into the weekend, and there's no financial guarantee that comes with that. It's just part of the salary job and your medical and hopefully your bonus and all that stuff. Okay, so Aunt Tony says, what their Spider-Man was pretty innovative with web slinging. What game did that better? I'm not suggesting, Aunt, that and now again, first off, that was Spider-Man 1. And I don't know if Spider-Man 1 was made with crunch or not. I know Spider-Man 2, meaning Miles Morales, not Spider-Man 2, but Miles Morales Spider-Man, was much less crunchy because they were able to build on the bones of what had gone before. But even if you do look at the web swinging, sure, okay, I'll give you that. It was the best web swinging I've ever had in a game. But the rest of the game, which I loved, was pretty, beautifully, wonderfully executed, but pretty rote in terms of gameplay. I mean, that's not an insult. I loved the game. One of my favorite games that year. But it didn't rewrite the book, and it wasn't super innovative. It just kind of was, what you expected, but beautifully done. Ricardo says, I buy the games. I want to support them day one, and I share an account with a friend. I bought Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars, Metroid Prime, Hogwarts day one. Okay, let's go to where we're at right now in the poll. So right now, 82% of you folks are saying crunch is worth it. Let's see if that number is going to change before the end of this conversation. Come on back over here, you old so-and-so. 82% say yes, I'm down with crunch. 18% say take that shit out of here. It's inhumane. So I guess, even that though, right? Even that though, the fact of the matter is even a bunch of hardcore fucking gamers are sitting here saying, 82%, the vast majority, 82% are saying, yeah, we're good. Go ahead and crunch. We don't care. By the way, if you want my vote, I haven't voted. I agree. I fucking agree. It's nice when people don't have to work super hard and can go home when they need to go home and have good lives. I'm all in. I'm all in on that. But, when you come into an industry where you really are competitive and you have to be competitive in order to survive, you could, I guess, build a company maybe like Insomniac is. And they're saying, look, we want to innovate, but execution on a formula that's tried and true allows us to make a lot of money, a lot of fans, and also allows us to not have to crunch like the normal teams. I think that's wonderful. Kills on Fire says, I understand what you're saying, but it's wonderful. But remember, they're going to go to their graves going, we did a lot of great stuff and made millions of people happy, but we were never the innovators. And not everybody wants to be that. Kills on Fire says, I understand what you're saying about innovation, but how many of the crunching studios can you say are innovating? I'd argue not as many as being implied. It's a very good point, Kills. I think they're probably certainly innovating in execution and technology that allows them to execute at a high level. But yes, Water Princess in the chat says crunch doesn't fix fun factor. That's true. That is, it can, of course. You can just keep banging your head against the wall of fun factor until you break through. But you are absolutely not wrong that ultimately a game can be fun in the first 3 weeks of production, and then the rest is just a nightmare of executing, but the core is fun. You're absolutely right. I bet when everybody got their bonuses from God of War, says Blind, when they didn't care about crunch. Look, I honestly was in a very privileged position on the God of Wars I worked on, and that I was sort of, I wasn't demanding crunch. That wasn't my place, but I was demanding quality, and I was demanding competitive products. And in that did lead to crunch. I don't know how these guys and girls felt after the game was a hit and they made some money. I couldn't tell you. Dilly D says art doesn't have a time card. Crunch is part of creativity. I agree. But I also agree that not everybody, and this may be a them problem, not everybody who signs up to work on someone else's game, Sony's game, right? To them, they're like, I'm not here to make art. I'm here to make textures, and I'll do what you need, but you're fucking ruining my marriage and my health and my family time and all that, which I respect. I get it. Okay. Joe says, talking to Rathizzle says, and some careers have crazier hours than games. If it's a contract, then you have the option to say no. People who love their careers will not have a problem with it. Where did that one go? I want to read that real quick. Personally, I don't even care for working 1 hour over 40. My personal time is valued over 2 to 1 versus work time. I respect that. But Sweet Tooth, my question would be, then you're probably not someone that would fit in. Let me ask you this. If you value your home time or your personal time so much, which I respect, I assume you would never take a job at Naughty Dog, correct? Because they historically crunch. Exo says, just because you crunch, that doesn't mean the game will be good. No, it doesn't. But it certainly means more often than not, a game that is given that kind of polish and obsession has a better chance of being a good product. Sure. So Sweet Tooth is, yeah, then there you go, Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth says, cool, I wouldn't work there. I think that's the ultimate solution. You just say, yeah, it's not for me, but let people who it is for be okay with it. Fewbie says, I value my time, but I don't value game developers' time, which is fine. I don't even agree, by the way, with Ricardo when he says, I do it to support the devs. I don't think, it's not my job to support the devs. It's my job to make myself feel better as a consumer with my money. I support them by paying them. Exo says Naughty Dog games are bad and they crunch. They are not bad. They are not bad in any way, shape, or form. They are not that innovative when it comes to certain aspects of gameplay, and you may not like their narratives, and I can respect that. But to say that they're bad, like they're badly made, come on now. That's ridiculous. Jedi Survivor is buggy, says Exo, but it's still a good game. That's why Metacritic score is so high from critics. Well, I'm going to play a little bit of it tonight, Exo. What I will tell you is that my understanding, and I haven't read the IGN review yet, but my understanding is that IGN and a number of these reviewers that gave it really good reviews didn't even mention the bugs on the console versions. And that I take real issue with. If there's screen tearing that is totally noticeable, and there is frame rate that is frame rate issues totally noticeable on that game, and it wasn't mentioned in these reviews that were giving it a 7, 8, 9, 10, that's a fucking problem, and people need to fucking call that shit out. Okay, let me get this last super chat, then we're going to vote again, move to the next topic. Drive by Joe says, I'm crunching at Pepsi right now, making product, trying to go home on time. Y'all mad at Pepsi now? I'm not mad at Pepsi. I'm not mad at people who crunch. I think, my issue with Pepsi is that if you're crunching, God knows for what. Pepsi's terrible. And look, man, I'm a soda drinker. I would drink Diet Pepsi. I don't have an allegiance to Diet Coke, but it just doesn't taste good. It tastes like cleaning fluid. So slip some shit in there, Drive By Joe, and maybe you'll turn that company around. I appreciate the super chat. All right, let's vote again. And let's see. Right now we were at 80 and 18. Let me ask you guys a question, because I haven't done this before. Are you able to go and change your vote in real time? Meaning, do I need to put the poll back up, or can you, now that we're done discussing it, can you go up and change your vote? Bukaki says, do you get mad at crunch you work or without pay is just being overworked part? No, they don't get paid for all the extra time, Bukaki, they work. No. I've been wondering how you feel about Super Mario animated movie being successful without being woke. I don't really know what that means. What do you mean it's not? I mean, I didn't think it was a great movie, but I thought it was a great Mario movie. For if you love Mario, it was a blast, but it wasn't a very good movie. There were some amazing moments in that movie. The Rainbow Road sequence is astounding. I fucking loved it. Successful without being woke. I don't really know. You need to be a little more specific about what you mean by that. You can't change your vote. Okay, so here we go. Let's vote again. Okay, so we know where we ended up, 82 to 18. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to put it up again. And now this is the poll, and let's see where it ends up. Let's see if the debate, the discussion changed minds and hearts. Crunch. Yes. Now, you guys know the nuance. The nuance is on the screen, but for the sake of brevity, let's just kick it in with a little bit simpler. So it's up there now. Do you crunch, yes or no? I'm going to vote. If I can vote, I can't vote, but I would have voted yes. Okay, right now we got, I'll give it a minute. Let me set the timer. We'll give it 1 minute for you guys to vote. I'll talk to the chat in the meantime. You should be able to change your vote, Aunt Tony Pony. That's the whole point, is you have an opinion on something, and then you hear different sides, and you discuss, and you debate, and you compromise, and you open your mind to different views, and then maybe that's changed your mind. That's the problem with our fucking world right now. It's looked at a weakness if you change. You want to fucking change. Crunch without pay. Fuck no. If you get paid, it's your decision. You get paid a salary in games most times. If you're a tester, and this is one of the reasons I think that a lot of the testing unions are going to fail. Sony at times would contract testers through a contract service, and there would be overtime attached to that. But the idea that you're going to have a union of QA people demanding a certain kind of treatment when they go into crunch, but the rest of the team's not getting it. No, I think that's not going to work for a lot of people, and it's going to be easier to just not deal with it. Okay, so here we go. We changed it barely. We started at 82%. The final vote, we lost a couple of people saying crunch is good. We ended up at 79% that. Well, it's about the same. Well, shit. No, we dropped. We were at 82%. Now we're at 78%. And no, we went to 22%. All right. So the bleeding heart liberals won a little bit. They gained some people for their battle. Okay. Jojo D says, is crunch one of the reasons you're no longer married? Would you do it again? It's not the main reason, but I think that crunch certainly, I think that crunch would be one of the accelerants that pushed us towards realizing that we probably shouldn't have been married. So in that way, you could argue it was good, but it certainly put a lot of stress on family time. Yes. Water Princess says, Jaffe, what would be crunch and YouTube journalism? I don't know what YouTube journalism is. I know a lot about gaming journalism, crunch, says Ricardo. So many hours, right? I mean, that's the funny part is journalists will write about crunch like it's terrible, and they'll go off and crunch like a motherfucker to get the story out. I'm not saying that that's, good or bad. It depends on them, I guess. What am I doing? This isn't a job. I mean, this is a calling to me. So the idea that I don't consider myself a journalist, and I certainly don't know, I'm thinking, if I'm not doing family time stuff, I'm thinking about these shows. That's how much I love streaming and making videos and making content like this. So I don't consider it crunch at all. But if I had to work for someone, then I would probably have a different, a different opinion. But right now, no, I fucking adore it, man. Okay, here we go. Let's move on to the second topic of the day. This is a topic I like to call, it's really creatively titled, Boom, who is the best head of PlayStation for PlayStation 5 era? So let me get that up on the poll first. And then we'll talk a little, fuck you, Bukaki. Then we'll talk a little bit. Then we'll talk about, okay. Now, this is not best in the past. This is like for PlayStation and the state of the industry now. So let's be clear. For the state of the industry now, who is best to lead PlayStation? Okay? Let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. I had somebody in the chat going, I thought we were voting on peanut butter. So let's fucking just make sure we know what the fuck we're doing. All right, Jimbo Ryan, who is currently leading Sony at the moment. Hey, baby, what's up? I will order them today. Yes. And Shawn Layden, who ran it for a very long time, but is obviously not there at the moment. Okay, so, hey. All right, there it is. It's up there. Jaffe, can you include Jack Tretton or Kevin Butler? No, I cannot. Only because this is about literally looking at PlayStation at the moment and going with the changes in the industry. Here's the way I frame it. Now, I don't know if you agree with this or not. With the changes in the industry, not just Sony, but game player likes and dislikes and competition and things like free-to-play and Roblox and all that shit, I always look at Shawn Layden as a guy who was able to balance the business with the creativity. Jim Ryan, to me, seems more like 80% business, 20% like, yeah, if the fucking, Poindexters want to be creative artists, let them, but we got to make sure we make the ducats, right? I don't know if that's accurate, but that's how I see it as an outside observer. Shawn Layden is now working for Tencent, says DeaderX. Yeah, that's a different issue, sir. Layden working for General Mao. I hear you. Different issue. Magnum says Jim is king. Aunt Tony says all business. Blind One says Layden seemed better with the fans. I agree. Layden was absolutely better with the fans. Layden was a gamer. Layden had been at Sony in the trenches of creation or marketing or actually more on the front lines than Ryan ever was. But the question is, being better with the fans is not the issue. Being liked is not the issue. I think if we put up a poll that said, who do you like more, Shawn Layden, Shuhei Yoshida, or Kevin Butler, that would be a fucking, three-way runoff. But I think if we're talking about business and who is best for the brand of PlayStation, not the brand, but the business of PlayStation in this current era, who would be best? I don't know. Ravno says, was Layden a gamer? That seems suspect. He wasn't. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a gamer like Scott Rohde's a gamer. He wasn't a gamer like Shu's a gamer, but he could talk the talk. He played games. I think when they interviewed Jim Ryan a while back, they're like, what PlayStation game do you love? And he gives this total vague answer about Ratchet and Clank. I'm like, dude, you hadn't gotten past the second level in Ratchet and Clank, and you fucking know it. Avoid the Void says, Shawn Layden's approach doesn't make sense in 2023. I didn't start the timer. Okay, we're not going to go a full 10 minutes. So right now, here's where we're at. These are close topics today. We've got the starting vote is 48% Jimbo Ryan. Damn it, Jaffe, stop hitting tab, you old moron. And 52% good Sir Shawn Layden. Okay. Right, Bukaki, that's exactly right. Jim Ryan talking about his favorite game is like when the press asked Trump what his favorite Bible verse is. It's like, oh, all of them. All of them. Jay the Gamer says, I don't know who Shawn Layden is. Shawn Layden was the head of PlayStation for, like, I guess, PS3 and PS4 era, I guess, would be roughly, that was his sort of time. Avoid says, Shawn Layden's approach doesn't make economic sense in 2023. Though through economic recession, Ryan seems to be performing quite well. I would agree with that. I mean, if I pull, here's the problem. It's really a tough one, right? Because if I pull out my personal like of Shawn Layden, I think he's a very good person. And he was a very good head of Sony, and he was more artist friendly, it seems, as an outside observer now, than Ryan is. You also can't deny that Jim Ryan has been doing insane work for the business. And as much as I would love to see the Xbox deal go through, I think it's clear at the end of the day, if it doesn't, that Sony will be able to point to Jim Ryan and say him going out there as a leader and making a fool of himself and saying awful things probably was meaningfully impactful on making sure that deal did not go through. So, Kills on Fire says it's hard to judge Jim Ryan before the live action push. The live action push. We know he wants to close the gap in Sony's portfolio, but until it happens, we have no idea if it's a brilliant play or a bad move. What is the live action push? You mean like movies and shit? Ricardo says, you're telling me these gaming company dudes have not finished Bloodborne on New Game Plus? No. Rhodey might have. Shu probably has, yes, but certainly I don't think Shawn Layden has, but he's probably played it. I think if you went up to Ryan and said, hey, talk about Bloodborne, what do you think about the respawn system, the bell system in Bloodborne? He would be like, oh, does a bell come with this special edition? He wouldn't know what the fuck you're talking about. You meant, the service push. Kills says live action push was a typo. I meant the service push. Right. I mean, that's another point. And again, it's not to say that Shawn couldn't have done those. But I would say that certainly, in fact, to be fair, Shawn Layden, I believe Shawn was there when San Diego and Rhodey put the initiative to start San Diego on making live service games, of which one of them was, the much, destroyed, drawn to death, but none of them worked. Right. So yeah, I don't know. You're just kind of pretending. It's hard to know what Shawn would do with the live service, but you don't. Yeah. And here's something else though. We haven't really heard what live service games Jim Ryan is bringing to market for the most part, but I think it's kind of a mistake to be doing live service games that, factions aside, because it was already in production and people love The Last of Us, blah, blah, blah. I've said this on the show earlier in the week. I think they need more meat and potato stuff. If they're letting Haven and the Twisted Metal guys, whatever they're called, and all these people still bring that kind of arty-farty DNA to their service-based games, I think that's a problem. That's how you end up with Dreams. I think you need some fucking marketing mentality. Even ideally, it would come from the teams and not from marketing that says, look, we need some meat and potato hits, boys, when it comes to the service stuff. We're not looking for your magnum opus about your childhood of depression and abuse that you've turned into a victory lap that is represented in the playstyle and character of your new service game pitch. We need some fucking Call of Duty fucking guns and race cars. That's what we fucking need. That's what we fucking need. I'm buying a third PS5, says Fupy, for Inspector Gadget. Are you joking? Are you joking? I guess you might be European. Because that was wasn't Inspector Gadget bigger over in London? No, that's Danger Mouse I'm thinking of. Bacon Magma says, I think Brent Goki could run PlayStation with an iron fist. Oh, come on now. I mean, I like Brent. I don't know him that well, but what in the world would make you think that? Jaffe, Man Cave, did you create Twist? Yeah, well, Scott Campbell, me, Kellen, there's a bunch of people on that team that brought that game to life, Twisted Metal. I bought the second PS5 for Bug Snacks. You're shitting me. Oh, okay, you're fucking with me. You're fucking with me. Okay. I don't have anything, Daniel, against magnum opuses. I'm saying they're wonderful. They have their place in time. But it's very much like Spielberg when he talked about Schindler's List. He's like, look, I just made Jurassic Park. I'm the most successful Hollywood director of all time. But when I went to Universal and said I want to make Schindler's List, a movie about the Holocaust, it's 3 hours and it's a downer, and I want to make it in black and white, they said, of course, we'll make anything you want, but we're not going to give you $200 million to do it. You know, make it for 50 or whatever the budget was. So it's not that I am against magnum opus. It's that I think Sony seems to think there's only really one kind of game you can greenlight. And it's these kind of, there has to be an artistic vision. And that is true. But sometimes the artistic vision is, let's make some fucking money. Exo says, didn't Layden kill a lot of studios? I mean, yeah, but is that bad? I mean, you even had Shuhei the other day coming out and saying part of our success is that we kill a lot of games. But he was talking games. I don't have your vote up here. Hang on, let me put this up here. All right, so anyway, there's the conversation. I'm going to end this poll, and we're going to vote again. So we started at 48-52. Okay, we started at 48-52. As we wrap this poll up, let's see let's see if anybody's changed hearts and minds because of our brilliant oratory skills. Who is best Sony CEO? Come on now. Ryan or Layden? All right, boom. We get a minute to vote. Let's do it, and then we will see what the comeback is. People are mad at Days Gone are silly, Ravnos, meaning the sequel. Yeah, I mean, what do you want? I mean, not everything gets a sequel. I mean, that's the world they're in now, where you can sell, 8 or 11 million copies, and it's still not enough to get a sequel. Daniel says, oh, Jaffe, you're talking about reining in the auteurs. I'm not talking about reining in their creative vision. I'm talking about reining in the fact that they need to build their business on more than just that at those prices in terms of budget. Mr. K says, if the question is the current state of the industry, I go Jim Ryan, but I prefer Shawn. Like, yeah, this isn't like who's more likable or who greenlights the kind of games that you like. Spider-Man 2 is all Sony needs. PS5 will win the holiday season. Do you know, speaking of, when we're waiting for the final numbers to come in, do you know that Sony actually in their earnings call the other day came out and said that the only game that's AAA for 2023 is Spider-Man 2, or at least that's the only one that they're able to guarantee. And maybe there'll be a surprise, but the only first-party AAA is Spider-Man. Did they have anything? They had a DLC for January, February, March, but is that their only game to come out in 1 year? I mean, again, I'm not. People are like, it's enough. So I'm just saying that it really is reflective of the state of the industry that Sony first party and all these first parties used to put out. Wolverine's not coming out this year. They used to put out, like, we looked at the numbers. PS1 era, you got from first party exclusives. I think we counted, it was like 90. And it's been getting less and less to the point that we're at 1. Oh, and they had the PSVR too. Right. Okay. No Twisted this year. I don't know if they would call that AAA. I don't know if they would call any of their service games. Maybe that's why that is not on the list for something like Factions, possibly, but I don't know. Okay, here's where we ended up. We ended up with, if it was today, where's the poll? Come on now. They'll pop it up in a second, but it was 51. So if you go to final vote, Shawn Layden lost a point, and Jim Ryan. So it was pretty even. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the people, and again, I say this as a Shawn Layden fan. I think the people that voted for Shawn Layden, in this particular poll, and I don't know where the poll went. I wish it would have popped back up. I think a lot of that was emotional because you haven't done anything to counter why he would be better than Jim when it comes to the service-based stuff, or Sony's going down the wrong road with the service-based stuff, and Shawn would have prevented that because XYZ. Again, I put money on people, but so I like Shawn, and I like what Shawn has done, but I am a little surprised that you guys still gave him the win. Jaffe, shed some light. How long was Twisted development? Twisted 1 was under a year, and Twisted PS3 was probably 3 years for a variety of reasons. Saber says Shawn probably wouldn't have opposed the Activision deal so vehemently. He may have. I mean, we don't know, but you think in terms of just what you know about him. These people, says Avoid, who voted for Shawn would have run Sony bankrupt. A head should be able to present a vision. Shawn is better at that, says Arathizzle. A figurehead should, but you actually think the decision maker should? But anyway, we'll revisit this at the end of the PS5 era, and we'll see where things go. We'll see where things go. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, shall we? Okay, let me get a drink of the bubbly. I didn't see your joke, Mr. K. Sorry. That's a good point, though, Fubie. Jim Ryan threw poo at the wall and some stuck in the CMA's field of vision. Sometimes that's what you got to do. Next topic. Here we go. Let's talk about SOCOM. Here's the question for you. Let me put it up on the screen. Let me put it on the scene. 2023 SOCOM or no-com. A lot of people want SOCOM. The problem is for a lot of people, or no-com. The problem is for a lot of people, before I put it up there, I want to give you a little caveat. If you could greenlight SOCOM with a big budget, make it play exactly how you want it to, because fans have lots of different ideas. But if it played like butter, it played like the dream, but and again, you guys know I'm the most progressive guy you know. So I don't have a problem with, quote, woke stuff. I like woke stuff. I think it's important. But let's just, regardless where you sit on that, isn't the point. The point is, if you can make a decision, if you were CEO and it's like, hey, 2023 SOCOM will make it, it'll be exactly what the players want, but it'll be woke in terms of narratives, enemies, hotspots, the cast of characters that you can pick. It will definitely have a progressive bent flowing through it. Or if that's got to be what it is, then fuck it. I don't want it at all. If it has to go woke, I want nothing to do with SOCOM, as much as I think it will play, or it will play in this vote, in this hypothetical like butter. The poll is up there. Let me know what you think. SOCOM cannot work in today's world, says XOY. Ricardo says, I don't give a fuck about SOCOM. Why? No SOCOM, even EA walked away from Army of Two. Yeah, I mean, but let's be clear. We're not talking necessarily about how much you love SOCOM. We're talking about how a lot of people say they want SOCOM. Assume you want SOCOM. Assume it's going to be a great multiplayer, single-player, tactic-based shooter. Are you willing to play it? See, my theory about SOCOM, is that a lot of the people who want it and love it this may not be true, tend to be more anti-woke folks. I mean, would you consider Spec Ops: The Line to be woke, says Kill on Fire? That game's story and premise was incredible. I'd love a SOCOM that went that route. It's certainly anti-military. But yes, Aunt Tony Pony, he says, so the gameplay is amazing, but it's woke. Is that what you're saying? That's exactly what I'm saying. Where would you put it? Where would you put it in your yes or no on that? What do I mean by woke? I mean, like, yeah, you could have trans operatives. You could have missions where they're sent in to stop the January 6th insurrection, right? Or something like that that's clearly based on that. You could have missions where, there is a race riot in America, like what happened with George Floyd, and they're sent in and you're able to make choices depending either, on your political views or not even that. The game just veers into the realm of we were sent here to stop the protesters, but we actually ended up agreeing with a lot of what they were saying. So it's very progressive for people like me. It's the Rachel Maddow of video games, but at a mechanics level, it is the SOCOM wet dream that you have been dreaming and begging for many, many years. Would you say, fuck it, I don't want it because of the themes? Or would you say it's the gameplay that matters? I don't give a fuck. I never even think about what I'm doing narratively in SOCOM. I'm there to fucking shoot people and work with my team to sort of have that great feeling when a tactical, issue or a tactical scenario comes off great. Pony says gameplay trumps all. Ricardo says, why would SOCOM go that route? SOCOM was always fictional scenarios. Well, SOCOM, I believe, right, is a real branch of the SEALs. But the scenarios were fictional. Why would it go that route? Because we're playing a game called Fanboy Fights, because it's a hypothetical. I mean, it probably wouldn't, but I also don't think they're ever going to remake SOCOM. Okay, so right now, if you look at the poll, it's 60-40, 40% or 60. And this is a little tough because we don't know how many people are voting no because they don't want SOCOM anyway. But let's assume for the sake of this poll that the people who are voting are like, yeah, I'd play that, but not with that shit. So right now, more people would rather see it be put to death than ship with a actual woke quote agenda. What's the timer up there? The timer just gives us kind of a rough estimate of how long we stay on each topic. Brian says gameplay reigns supreme, something Xbox doesn't have. I would disagree with you in some cases. I certainly think Xbox has a better competitive first-person shooter. Sony has none. And I haven't played, to be fair, I haven't played GT, and I think the real new GT competitor is coming with Forza Motorsport or whatever. But I definitely think the arcadiness of Horizon is not reflected in a racer on the PlayStation 5, but in a lot of other ways, I agree. Yeah, B is the no-com means you don't want anything to do with it if they're going to have to make it, quote, woke. We have Major Chads in the chat tonight, wins to 60% of you, says Mr. K. Yeah, Eric says, just give me SOCOM 2 remastered. Yes, but that's not the game. Jaffe, I was trying to trigger the bots. I'm sure you did. What competitor shooter does Xbox have? Halo is a great shooter. Halo is a really fun, great multiplayer game, in my opinion. Is it loaded with enough frequent content drops to merit its existence as a service-based game? No. But to look at Halo and say, even most people who are Halo haters, if you've played it, you would have to do some real impressive game design theory to convince anyone who's played that game more than 5 minutes that the multiplayer of that game is not excellent. Certainly better than anything Sony has, which is obviously because they have nothing. when it comes to first-person shooters. Mr. K says, I don't want to feel preached to, because for many people, January 6th was far from an insurrection. It was a dumb riot. Saying it's an insurrection is a political opinion, which I'm not interested in. Sure you are. You just gave one. It was a dumb riot. You have a political opinion. You just don't agree with mine, which is fine. We don't have to. Okay. SOCOM is a very specific tactical shooter. The fan base is extremely dedicated. They still play it. Right, Kill Deal. So the question becomes, do you think that very dedicated fan base would be okay if the game was brilliant in every respect, but it went woke? Mefu says gameplay is king. I agree. SOCOM, would it be like Rainbow Six, says Water Princess? I would not ever risk jumping into the debate of what makes SOCOM SOCOM. That's one of the reasons I don't think Sony's ever going to remake it. They could. I hear a rumor they are. But ultimately, there's about 3 different camps that have opinions about what makes SOCOM SOCOM. And in that, I don't know how you make a game without disappointing 2 of them, and they're very fucking vocal. XAC Slayer says, I'm a pretty conservative guy and would love to play a game where a purple-haired black lesbian stops January 6th. Just making it its own game and stop piggyback off existing franchises. Can you imagine, though? It's like just a game totally designed from the very beginning to piss off the Fox News watchers. If you accuse criminal insurrectionists, that's not a political agenda, says Fupy. If you basically say it was a riot and it wasn't an insurrection, you're basically taking a stance saying that that all of the facts or all of the stories that say that Trump wanted this to happen in order to overthrow the election, where you even have Republicans that work for him saying that occurred, you're just throwing all of those out. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant. But you're just throwing all of that out. I think that's fine if you have evidence or reason to throw it out, other than like, oh, it's fucking dumb. Then I agree with you, but I don't think that's the case. Does anyone know a great woke game, says Joe? I thought a lot of people would say not Twisted. Last of Us Part 2 is woke. I think it's a great fucking game. Miles Morales, a lot of people say is woke. That's a great fucking game. What's the other one? Gone Home is very progressive. Life is Strange. Those are great games. Yeah, I agree. Have you ever heard of the Arma games? I have. I absolutely have. I need to see video footage of every other insurrection. No, why don't you just look at the definition of insurrection and ask yourself if it fits it? You don't need to watch every insurrection ever. Just read it. After your Constellation episode about how you only see one side of the news, you really want to say, I'm not getting into it. We can talk about it later, but not right now. Why is Miles Morales called woke? I don't call it woke, but if you remember, it ended with like a Black Lives Matter banner. I think in that game there was it's been a while. There would have to be a little bit more commentary about policing in New York. But it's been a very, very long time. Okay, let's see where we're at. We have a minute left about NOCOM. We've actually bridged the gap a little bit. So we have 6% have dropped off of their militant view that they don't want anything to do with SOCOM if it turns out there's some woke shit in it. Fair enough. Juan Garcia says Miles is not woke. I don't think it's woke either. I'm just saying that if you look online, it's accused. Here you go, right here. Deader X says Miles Morales has a woke side quest, worst part of the game, both in story and gameplay. Kill Deal says I still play and stream SOCOM. It's how I found your channel. Well, I would love your take then. So what did you vote? If it was the SOCOM of your dreams, but it was super woke, would you be all in, or would you be able to accept it? Or you'd say, you know what, if you're going to go down that road, thanks, but no thanks. I'll stick and play, the old school SOCOM. As for what Jeeves is saying, yeah, Rainbow Six is already super woke because the rainbow. Kill Dill says, yeah, I would go no com, unfortunately. Isn't that something? Isn't that some shit? A video game about a man with spider powers. That's what was woke about it, right? Oh, I'm kidding. Rainbow Six is not satire, but I think you're kidding as well. Okay, well, there we go. Let's lock it in at 47.53. So 47% of people, look at that. This is why America is great. The internet is great. Oh, no. Go back, Jaffe. It was 40 to 60, and we ended it at 47. God damn you, tab using motherfucker. We ended it at 47.53. So us progressive wokies actually got 7% to come off their high horses and say, you know what? I just want to play some good fucking games. And if there's some political agenda in there, I don't give a shit. Few be explained. Okay. Somebody. Okay. The cops are mean to you in Miles Morales because you play as a black guy. I don't know if that's true, but it's been a while. Okay. Such perfect democracy. That's right. Okay. Let's move on to number 4. Let's clear the board here and let us clear the poll. Let me get a sip of the bubbly. Okay, a different era. The word woke was said probably 1,000 times in a few minutes. I still have no idea what it means. Okay. What it means, I think, to most people today, my understanding is woke actually was a term that came out of the African American community, which was meant to be more of a positive take on being aware to the injustices that are occurring to you and people in the world. Okay. It has since become a word that is used to represent progressives and people on the left and people who, when you use it negatively, are trying to shove some kind of agenda that is progressive in the face of other people. Is kind of, I think, what people mean these days when they say woke, is what I would think. Darth Nugget says, I don't know what woke means. If someone says that, they're being disingenuous as fuck or not paying attention. And the ones who think it just means progressive politics. I know it started meaning progressive politics, but it doesn't mean that now. It does, but it also means other things depending on who's talking about it. Like Exo says woke means progressive, right? I don't think that, but I'm progressive. Shut up, Bukaki. All right, let's move on. This is number 4. Now, this one, I'm curious about this one. This one might divide. This might be our January 6th moment of the show. I've loved every Resident Evil remake they have made so far. I have loved, and I finished them. I'm almost done with RE4 remake, but 2 and 3, and then obviously I loved Village and I loved 7. I think they're just delightful. And I'm almost done with 4 remake, and I'm having a great fucking time. So goddamn great. But here's the question. If Capcom were to make another remake, which you know they will, because these things sell like pancakes and hotcakes, which apparently are top selling items. No, I've also played RE1 and 2. The originals. So if they're going to do another remake, right? Would you rather them remake Resident Evil 1, the classic, like whether they, you can get into the nuance of, are they going to remake the HD version or the original? Fuck you. You know what we're talking about. Some version of Resident Evil 1 with the same polish and adjustments and camera that they did for RE4 and RE2 and RE3? Or would you rather them make Devil May Cry 1, done in the same style of 2, 3, and 4 Resident Evil, with over-the-shoulder camera, God of War 2018 style combat, but still Devil May Cry it. That kind of game. And then with all the additions and changes that they've made to the remakes in the Resident Evil series. That becomes the question. I know you want Dino Crisis. I know you want Code Veronica. That's not the goddamn question. So I'm putting this up right here on the poll. Let's see what you guys have to say. Start a poll. Remake RE1 or DMC1. And we'll say remake RE1 Remake DMC1. Here we go. Ask the community. Boom, it's up there. I hope it's up there. There it is. Overall, I prefer God of War, says Ricardo, but DMC's combat was far superior. I agree. I mean, I think if you're talking about the God of War I worked on, you're absolutely right. But people always, not you, but people have always said that like it's sort of a insult. And we have always been like, yeah, we were never trying to topple DMC. We wanted people to feel as cool as you felt as Dante when you played Kratos in the first couple God of Wars, but we were never trying to make a deep, fighter platformer adventure game that could compete with the Cap. No fucking way. We were gunning more towards Onimusha is sort of the style that we were going for. I think the world you guys made with God of War is more interesting than DMC. Hello, Gaming Nation. Good evening to you too. The gun juggling is badass, as Daniel and DMC. Right. Jeeves says DMC remakes will be divisive like the last one was. Yeah, but the last DMC was divisive, whatever. Wasn't that more because they totally changed the tone? Like the dude was this kind of punk guy and it was trying to be kind of underground and all that shit. It wasn't necessarily the gameplay. That was the Team Ninja guys or whatever they're called, Ninja Theory. I thought that was a really fun game, but I do think thematically, I thought that was what the fans had a bigger issue with. I imagine all of this will be divisive. I mean, I imagine everybody who makes a remake, even Resident Evil, I imagine there are still people that don't like that they've remade the Resident Evils. I was on a chat with someone today, I forget who, that was complaining about Resident Evil because it's, once 4 came along, it stopped being what made it great to them, which was the fixed camera and stuff like that. So, wait, DMC5 was not divisive. I'm talking about the one that with the guy with black hair, and it started like on the docks at the carnival. Yeah, I'm talking about DMC. That was the one that was divisive. DMC5 was not. No, I know. I hopefully you know what I'm talking about. DMC5 is they went back to Dante and Virgil and all that shit. If changing DMC to over the shoulder makes it better, I'm down for a new one, but I don't know if I want over the shoulder. I think for the sake of this conversation and this poll, it's less, you have to assume, just like with SOCOM, it's going to work. It's less about, you start putting in all these like, well, what about if it doesn't work because the camera, it's a hypothetical. So assume that both of these would be great games. The question is, what do you want more? Do you want to keep? I mean, I'll tell you something. I've been surprised by how much I have loved RE4 remake. And a lot of it is, I mean, there's so many reasons, but not the least of which is the narrative and the story and the presentation of Leon and Ashley and how it all kind of, is executed in such a compelling way. And so I'm kind of going, okay, when that guy shows up and takes Ashley on the helicopter, I'm like, I don't know who that is. I'm assuming he's somebody in the original RE2 or Veronica, or I don't know. Like, I don't have a response of like, oh my God, that's that dude that's betraying Leon. Right. So for me, I'm just kind of like, I want to know more about the history. But so for me, that would get my vote. But I loved Devil May Cry as well. I mean, hell, there is no God of War without Devil May Cry. So I'm annoyed by all the RE remake stuff as FUP. Focus on new installments with classic over the shoulder. Okay, you don't mean the fixed camera. You mean basically make an RE. Well, they are making new ones though, right? They made Village. They made Village DLC. They made 7. And they're making a new one. RE5 and 6 were fluke, says Juan. I do imagine that it would be really challenging coming off of RE4 to go, what do we take from the lesson of why that was so successful? And maybe 5 and 6 were them taking the wrong thing. All right, let's see right now. We've got 59% to 41. That's where the vote will start. Let's see if we can change some hearts and minds. Okay. Resident Evil Classic RE1, so that's going to get 59% of the vote. And DMC done like that, but it's DMC. That's sitting at 41% of the 41% of the vote. All right, let's see if anything changes over the next couple of minutes. 59%. Okay. I'm in the minority, says Water Princess. I liked RE3 remake over RE2, but the Mansion and RE1 remake would be sweet. Right. Absolutely. I totally fucking agree. Totally agree. Aunt Tony says Code Veronica needs a remake. I have never played Code Veronica except maybe 10 minutes of it, and I should get back to it because I hear that all the fucking time. Nawdog abstains. I wonder why. I enjoy RE8 in VR, but I don't want to play non-VR games in first person, says Fupy. Okay. RE9 is going to be first person. They switch perspective every third game. I don't know if that's true. I mean, it's true, but I don't know if that's a thing they do, because how could they, what are they going to switch to now? Second person? When I say over the shoulder, I mean like RE4 camera or Resident Evil Remake 2 and 3 camera. Rob the Mod, what you doing, you old so-and-so?
Hey.
How's it going? You just wake up?
Man? Oh, it's going. No, I got the COVID.
What? Oh, shit, you do?
Yeah, I got the vid.
How did you get the COVID?
My brother came to visit.
You're a fucking moron. Jesus Christ, Rob the Mod. Well, what do you think? Would you remake RE1, Rob the Mod, or would you remake DMC1 in the style of Resident Evil 4 remake?
I'd remake RE1.
Why?
DMC's too good. I have a special place for Devil May Cry.
Okay.
It's kind of like one of those games that I just enjoyed. It's kind of in the same vein of like God of War. I wouldn't change the original God of War's movement because it's just too much fun. It has too many memories. So
but it exists though. So if you're gonna remake one, I here's the thing: the combat in Devil May Cry, is so central to that game that I guess but for the sake of the conversation, we have to assume you would be able to capture that same skill-based combat and style combat from a more commercial camera over the shoulder. So assuming you could do that at a business level, I would of course remake RE1. It's a bigger franchise. People are able to connect with it more. What are you typing? I'm going to mute you for a second. That's okay.
That's good.
But from a game, I would still go. I would still go RE1 is what I would remake. If Capcom remakes DMC, they should stop with missions. Just make a straight game like God of War. What do you mean? I don't remember. Was that broken up into chapters that they called missions? Daniel says the aerial melee combat. Yeah, but you have to assume it works. Like you have to assume that once Dante launches himself and it's the RE4 or God of War camera, the camera cuts or pulls back to more of a traditional DMC camera to let you do the juggling and all that. And then you land and it seamlessly transitions back to over the shoulder. Pony says those are the kind of remakes I like to see, a remake that changes up the whole game from the perspective of the camera. That sometimes will make all the difference in the world for sure. If you remade God of War 1 with a camera change like Resident Evil, it would be, I think you could certainly do it. And I think that would be awesome, but I would love to see that. But I think you would have a lot of work to do to make it good enough or as good as you remembered it, because there is a lot about that game that worked because of the camera. And same thing with RE1 and 2, but they were able to pull it off remaking too. So Young Wolf says Resident Evil needs a remake more. I think at this point, just tell the whole fucking story. And I'm serious. Now after playing RE4 remake, I played what was it? Village, which stars Leon, right? And I didn't even remember half the shit that had occurred because the last time I played RE4 meaningfully was ages ago, and I never even fucking finished it. So now I want to go back and play Village. So the idea of all of those being remade into sort of one epic, I'm in, man. I'm in. Eric says he wants a RE5 remake. I've never played it. I've never played 6. I heard too many things, but RE5 is one of those games that now a lot of people talk about like, hey, it was actually pretty good. And maybe it was. What do you mean Village has nothing to do with Leon? Isn't Leon the guy with the hand and the daughter in the DLC? Who, or is Leon, no, wait, which is the one in the visits the hillbilly family in 7? Is that Leon? That's what I'm saying. I got to get all the story straight now. Ethan Winters is in Village and his daughter is the DLC. Okay, so who was the one in 7? Was that Ethan as well? Hey, don't fucking say, come on, Jaffe, Mike Warner says. I'm telling you, the way they tell the story in RE4 makes a guy like me who is a fan of Resident Evil, but not a hardcore, came up through the ranks as a kid with this shit. I followed the story better in RE4 remake than any of the other ones. And so forgive me if they did a better job in 4 than the original 4, but now I'm like, oh, I want to see how this all ties together, because I guess it was in 7 where I guess it was Ethan gets affected by the virus or something, and that's why in 8 he's doing all the fucking shit on his hands that miraculously heals. I don't remember. It's been a while. But anyway. All right, so we have come to the end of this topic. Let's revote and let's see what you guys think. So I'm going to kill this poll, which is currently, when the last we actually marked the poll, RE Classic was at 59%, DMC was at 41. Let's kill this poll and let's put a new one up, and let's see if hearts and minds have been changed. Hang on. That, okay. Remake DMC1 or all right. There it goes. We'll do it for 1 minute and see where we come out. Thank you for the super chat. NY says RE5 is a great game, but it's a bad RE game. Okay. What about RE6? Would you give it the same review, that it's a great game, but it's not a great RE game? Okay, see, Ricardo says the only connection between 7 and Village and the previous is Chris Redfield. I mean, there's a lot of fucking, you gotta give me a break, because there's a lot of fucking characters, right? And I know who's the girl in 2? Claire Redfield is Chris's sister, and Leon's the guy who's got his first day on the job. I don't fucking, you know, I don't keep him straight. And where's the first time we meet Ada Wong? Is she in 2? Because I see her in, she must have been in 2, right? She has to have been in 2 or 3. And why aren't people asking, wait, action Resident Evils are starting to bore me. It needs to be scary again, says Doom. We'll talk about that in just a minute. That's one of the topics as well. RE5 was Black Hawk Down meets Resident Evil. That sounds pretty compelling. That sounds pretty good. Ada is in 2, but you only see her when you play as Leon. Okay, gotcha. Alex S says, Jaffe, I don't want to vote. You don't have to, but a lot of people died for your right to vote. But, you know, do what you got to do. Ghetto God says Ada Wong was also in Code Veronica. Okay, good to know. All right, here we go. We end it with Resident Evil. Wow, you guys jumped this one up. So 65% people were convinced. I wonder what, for people who originally voted for DMC, and we lost 5% on that for the final tally of 65 to 36, which the math doesn't add up. Let's just go with the 64 to 36. I think it must have changed when I went looking. Okay, why did you change your vote? Why'd you go from you basically dropped 5% of you guys said no, I'm going to leave DMC and go over to the Resident Evil side. What was the reason? I don't want to look up Resident Bacon says, Jaffe, just look up Resident Evil Story Explained videos. It's that simple. As a guy who's made video games and played video games forever, I don't want to fucking have to watch a video to know what the fuck is happening. The game is the product they sold me. If the game doesn't tell the story well enough that I need to run out and find a fucking video to explain what the fuck the thing's about, that's a problem with the game, not a problem with me. I changed from DMC to RE system because when I voted, I hadn't written the explanation yet. Okay. I want a remake of Impossible Mission. Okay. RE1 is a snoozer, says Nah Dog. That's, I guess, why he doesn't want to see that remade. And there's another challenge, which we'll talk about it in just a second. We'll get back to Resident Evil in just a second about is it scary or not. But let's move on to the next question. Here it is. We know Xbox has, is it over 90 minutes? They've got their showcase coming up, and then Starfield is getting its own showcase. We also know that Keighley, the week before, a couple days before, is doing his Summer Game Fest and a lot of other things. What we haven't heard yet is Sony. And are they doing anything? And I had someone come on the show the other day, and he was saying, oh, no, Sony needs to do a PlayStation E3 showcase, whether it's, you know, a video or a live stage show is irrelevant. They need to announce what the fuck is happening with Sony. Okay, so that's the debate question, which is, as we head into the summer, does PlayStation need a summer tour? Option A, PlayStation needs it to reveal games new and announced for PS5 and PSVR 2. Or B, PlayStation does not need a summer showcase. Now, when I say need, let me explain this to you. I don't mean they, like, if you're going to vote that it needs it, then you have to vote that without it, they will suffer. Because they haven't done a showcase of, like, here's what's coming up in a very long time. And they're still selling like fucking hotcakes, right? So the question becomes is, when people say they need to do it, I'm assuming what they're saying is they want it to be done, not that they need it to be done. But that was the question I wanted to ask. This may be a real quick discussion because it may be obvious when you parse it that way. But let's start the poll. Does PS5/PSVR2 need summer showcase? Okay, that's the question. And we say, yes, they do. No, they don't. Let's see the initial read on this topic, and we will debate it and discuss it, and we will see if it changes the room. Mr. K says, the way Jaffe words these questions is wonky. You're wonky. Your mom's wonky. The options aren't proper opposites. It's totally a proper opposite. Do they need a showcase this summer, or do they not need a showcase this summer? And by need, I mean, will the company suffer if they don't have it? What's wonky about that? What is not reflective of the opposite of what I'm offering? I think Fupy represents the majority, but the voting isn't showing that, which is he says, I want one, but they don't need one. The Gaming Nation says it's not as simple as just yes and no. Okay, well, explain to me why it's not. Doomslayer says they don't need it, but they will benefit largely from it, so they would be dumb not to. Option 1 is, do they need to reveal games? Option 2 is about a showcase. It's the same thing. You know, when a summer showcase and revealing games in the context of this conversation is the same thing. I kicked off the topic saying whether they're standing on stage or showing a video, they need to reveal what is coming up, announce games and new games for PS5 and PSVR 2. Okay, that's pretty clear, I think. Of course, I'm the one saying it. So if I'm wrong, let me know. Right now, 58% say they need it. So if you're in the chat, why do you say yes? I would be curious. Convince me my opinion's wrong. So Exo says they need to have a showcase to show everyone who's boss. Why would that change their business standing? Why would they sell less or more if they show someone who's boss or they don't? Young Wolf says they need to show Wolverine. Why? They're showing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's coming out this Christmas. Why would they need to show Wolverine? I'd like to see it. Yeah, Mike, I agree. Mike Warner says, I'd like to see more Wolverine. I don't need to see more Wolverine. Right. Right, I know. There's a lot of people claiming there's a showcase or a whatever you want to call it, a reveal or what have you, an update coming this summer. Blind One says, I think PlayStation being quiet just adds to the hype when they release games. Now, here's what I'll say. So Bukaki, okay, this is interesting. Bukaki says, I think they need it. I would say I'm an average consumer, and I have no idea what they've got coming out or when. I mean, that's a really interesting perspective on it. Because when I was a kid, I had the Atari, and I didn't have the Intellivision. All I had was the Atari. And they shipped Atari games with catalogs, and then they turned into posters of all the shit that was out and all the shit that was coming. And there was no internet. There were barely any magazines back then for video games. And in that's how I knew. I mean, I don't know if I ever would have sold my Atari, but if my friend knew, oh, my Intellivision, I have all of these fucking Intellivision games coming, and I'm like, I have no idea what's coming at any one time with Atari. That's a good point. You know, if you're just a casual guy and you bought a PlayStation and you really like it, yeah, you can go online and find out third-party stuff. But if you're like, well, what did they have coming? Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you know, maybe, you know, let's put it this way. Do they need it to keep selling? I guess it would really depend how good Redfall is and how good Xbox's deal is with all their new games they announced this summer. Feel better, Rob the Mod. And does the Activision deal go through? Because if all those things happen, then I would say if you're going into a store to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation and all you know that Xbox or all you know that Sony has is Spider-Man, maybe they do need something. Kills on Fire says it's not like having a showcase means they stop announcing games. So long as they still announce stuff. Yeah, but they haven't announced anything new is the reason I think everyone is jonesing for a showcase, right? They haven't announced a new game. Was it Wolverine was the last game they announced? They need to appeal to the live service gamers, says Water Princess. All they see is single player. I certainly think they should. I don't know if they need it at the moment. Gaming Nading says, I don't think they need it to sell. There's so much pent-up demand that it's still people will buy regardless. Okay. We know it's in development for most of Sony's first party. If people can find that info, they don't know how to use the internet. Most people aren't going to look like that though, right? I mean, but we kind of don't know. I mean, we assume that Tsushima 2 is in development. Silent Hill 2, Ricardo says, is the last exclusive announced. Announcing a studio. They announced the London studio game last summer, right? That was very underwhelming. I remember that, Saber. Rise of Ronin, Death Stranding 2. Those are ex-dev. Those are second party, though. But yeah, okay. Ghost Tsushima, we know, is probable. Spider-Man Wolverine, we know, is definite. We have no idea what's happening with Bend. Yeah, but Stellar Blade's not first party, but it is exclusive, and that matters, absolutely. And Final Fantasy. Okay. So the question then becomes, let me ask you this then, Kyle's, whatever, on Fire Guy. If you're Xbox and you have a banger show and Redfall, even it's 30, is awesome, and the deal goes through, do you think Sony needs to make sure come summertime or going into Christmas, they remind people Spider-Man, Final Fantasy, which will already be out, but let's just say whenever they need to reveal the news. Spider-Man, Final Fantasy this year, Stellar Blade this year, and then we've got Wolverine, we've got Factions, we've got Ghost 2 coming. Do you think that would be necessary if it turns out that Xbox has a really fucking good summer? Bacon, I don't agree with either one of those. He says, I think Gravity Rush 3 and a New Order 1886 is coming. Oh, I can't imagine. You're fucking with me. Horizon 3 and Horizon MMO, not close to release, though. I don't think either one of those. I certainly don't think Horizon MMO has got many people excited. Jojo D says, A few weeks ago, I told everyone in chat Twisted Teaser was a week away. No one cared. I am telling you, Ed Boon is going to reveal the next Mortal Kombat on the next state. It's not going to be exclusive, though. But everybody knows, yeah, there's a new one, but that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, Bacon, the next thing Bacon will say is Hayes is coming back. Did we already take the first poll? We didn't. We'll just take this poll as the final poll then. If the Microsoft Activision deal happens, it still may happen, but Sony would be talking a lot more. I could see that. I could see that. I would agree. Jaffe, if they make... Yeah, no, I'm not reading that. You think Sony Santa Monica can make a good live service game? I mean, I think certainly at an execution level they could, but I definitely think Sony has not shown... Sony has so far not shown, other than buying Bungie, which I think was a smart move, any aptitude at running service games. You could argue MLB The Show, because they do really fucking well with their post-launch content in terms of their rallies and all the cards, or however they make money after the $70, $60. But yeah, I absolutely think, other than that, Sony Santa Monica has never really shown a passion or aptitude for that kind of game. But they have shown a great aptitude for bringing in the right people they need at the right time. So, and they're smart. So I'm sure that they know if they were to go that route, they would have to bring people in that can contribute to the choices that understand that market really, really well. Juan Garcia says the deal is dead. The appeal is a joke. I just don't agree with you. Everything I've read, it doesn't sound that way. But look, I'm biased. I want it to happen. And I believe Michael Pachter. A lot of you guys are not biased, or you don't want it to happen, and you don't believe Michael Pachter. So I don't fucking know. I'm just kind of going based on those two caveats. GT7 is a great live service game, says V8 Supercar. Is it? I mean, I don't know. Is it doing well? Is it making a lot of money? Are they dropping frequent updates to the service and whatnot? Alex says, Jaffe, after Jedi Survivor, I no longer trust any company except Sony exclusives. Well, I'm going to be playing it tonight for an hour because I need to be able to talk about it on tomorrow's proper show, because I have heard negative things even about the console versions in regards to sort of the technical aspects. And in that, I can't believe that the reviewers have not laid into that on the console side. I've only seen reviewers lay into it on the PC side. I don't want to believe it will happen. I believe it might still happen, meaning the Activision deal, says Admiral. Okay, so let's see where we came out in the wash. So 63%, assuming they understood the question, which I'm assuming most y'all did, you guys think they need it. I didn't hear any. The only thing I heard that was kind of compelling was Bukkake's theory that's like, look, man, if I'm not like a hardcore gamer and I just own a PlayStation, if they want me to continue playing it and using it and paying for PS Plus and all that shit, they haven't said anything other than a couple of big games that'll be out in the next 6 to 8 months. That's a good point. I didn't think they needed it before, but if I would vote, I would, because of what Bukkake said, I would be putting yes, they do need it. I think it's a good point. It's 64% says yes, they need it, but I didn't hear anybody else echo that or say anything else. And then 36% say they don't. That's where we come out in the wash. Let's move on. It's not that a casual non-gamer would watch a showcase, Kyle's on fire. It's that a casual non-gamer, though, would talk to their friends, or that they would see it on mainstream news, or they would see, Sony would market it. It's like, hey, the Sony lineup for next summer or whatever. Boom, 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 boom. All right, let's move on. We have two more debates. This next one, hang on. This next one, oh my God, I would love Power Stone 3, Water Princess. I had hoped that's what Crash was going to be, Crash Team Rumble, but it's not. Okay. Let me read these. Sweet Ian says they need a showcase for casuals, otherwise Game Pass will be the go-to. But then again, Microsoft doesn't advertise either. Yeah, they don't. Sony needs a big thing late September, early October, says Admiral, to really shoot back against post-Starfield hype and break any momentum Microsoft might have. Fair. How does... Yeah, but the Doomslayer, let me hit this once. Just I don't want to get into it too much because it's been talked to death. But when you say appeals almost never work out, the issue is if you've read the actual CMA, whatever they put out, I don't know what the legal term is, complaint or response or what have you. I haven't. Michael Pachter said he read the whole thing, and he says all marbled all throughout that. It's clear what the CMA would need for them to change their mind, which is that Microsoft would not put Call of Duty on their cloud gaming service. And in that, it would allow the cloud gaming service, the nascent cloud gaming service model, to be more fair. It's not that they couldn't put Call of Duty on Game Pass. It's not that they couldn't own Call of Duty. It's that they couldn't put it on the cloud to compete with other cloud services that don't have it. Makio says you still believe Pachter. I'm only believing Pachter because he's offering, he's a smart, successful guy in his field. B, he's literally offering information from the official document that I haven't read. I doubt you've read it. And other than people saying Pachter's always wrong, no one's pushed back against his very logical conclusion that he's come to upon reading the document. So I do believe him. Yeah. Okay. I want to get to this one. Now, I don't want to keep getting into the woke shit. Right? But this one fascinates me a little bit. So, please listen, not what you personally like. All right? This has nothing to do with what you personally like. Let me write the poll first because I want to make sure I don't miss this one. If the deal doesn't go through, will you change your opinion on Pachter? No, because you guys are trying to paint humans as cartoon characters. Pachter has led a company for 20 years where his analysis has made him, his company, and people a lot of money. Is he wrong more than the average video game analyst? My assumption would be no. But and even if I'm friends with Pachter, if I was like, yeah, I still can like the guy, but I think he's totally wrong in 80% of his theories, that doesn't mean I can't be friends with him. I just, the idea that I'm going to change my opinion on him, he's an analyst. He's speculating. He's guessing. I don't know. I mean, I had him on the show. He answered your questions. He explained it. If you don't like his analysis, great. Maybe you think you know more than he does. Great. But I'll take his seasoned experience over just somebody on the internet that's like not offering any details, that hasn't even read the fucking document from the CMA, and they're still commenting on it. I'm commenting on it because I am commenting what the guy who read the document said. Here's the poll though. Okay, hang on. It's called let's just call it, let's say Capcom CEO. Okay. It doesn't have to be Capcom, but they're a pretty well-loved third-party title. Okay. Or publisher. So somebody comes along, gives you $200 million. Okay. And you are with $200 million. Forget the Capcom brand. It's an original title. 90. Okay. So here's what I'm trying to figure out. 90s mentality or 2023 woke mentality. So not what you like, okay? But I've heard so many people lamenting, why aren't games like they were back in the old days when I was a kid? I liked the tits and ass. I liked the non-political agendas. I liked, it didn't try to, there's got to be a black guy and a gay person and a trans person and all this, right? Why must it be 200 million in both cases? Because ultimately, if you are saying that you don't like the woke stuff, I appreciate that. But if you are reading the industry and saying, I can spend $200 million and I'm going to show you that there are enough people out there, because the excuse from the companies is, look, we can't afford to make these incredibly expensive games anymore and make them just for a bunch of sort of perpetual, and I can put myself in this group, perpetual 14-year-olds, right? I mean, if I were to make God of War 1 again, I would totally want the violence and the sex. 100%. 100%. But I can understand that if Sony's like, look, you see how people are responding to God of War 1 today. They think it's a misogynist game, and they think that Kratos treats women badly when he's fucking them, even though they want to be there as well and ask him to come back to bed. And we had nudity and all of this stuff. I would say I'll take less money because I want to make my game the way I want to make it. But if I'm an executive, if you're an executive, would you go? I mean, maybe we just think it with God of War. If you're going to remake God of War 1, would you spend $200 million and risk making it with the 90s mentality? Or would you spend $200 million and you would shave off some of the, quote, offensive edges that make it, rightly or wrongly, offensive to some people? And your job is on the line, and the $200 million is on the line. You see what happened to Horizon Burning Shores. Gamers don't want it. But Ghetto God, do you have data to back that up? You have a bunch of vocal people online review bombing it and saying they don't like it, but is it not going to sell? Like, I mean, what data do you have where a game that was woke like that didn't sell? I'm not saying you don't have it. I'm asking what would you point me to say? Because I agree with gaming nading more, where most people would take the safe bet. I agree. Ultra Awesome says it's not really about the 90s, more obvious pandering, which has shown the hurt sales. Well, again, Ultra Awesome, show me that. You may be right. Show me the pandering hurting sales. Taking offensive stuff out is different than putting woke scrap in the games. Well, okay, well, let's assume you're going to do both. Let's assume you're going to do both. It's a good point. They're different things. But let's assume you're going to do both. Let's assume you're going to take God of War 1, take the, quote, offensive stuff out, which I don't think is offensive, but you take it out, and you also replace some of the gods. Clearly, there's non-binary gods, and you put a sort of anti-capitalist message, and you make the gods represent clearly sort of pro-capitalism, and you make Kratos represent power to the people and all that shit. You did both. Where would you spend your money? 75% of you guys right now would go 90s. Okay, but again, I am not saying you guys are wrong, but I need some proof on this shit. KOTM Production says, does pandering hurt sales? I don't know. Just ask the CEO of Budweiser. There have been complaints about Budweiser, but Kid Rock shooting up some cans of beer doesn't mean that they've lost any money. Gillette lost money. I don't know if what they did was woke. It was, to some men who were very sensitive, insulting. But, if I didn't take it as insulting. I took it as, a lot of guys are idiots, and they were calling them out on it. No, Mr. K. Don't fucking come at me with complaints. Have you seen Budweiser's share price? That's what I'm asking. Show me evidence, and I'll say, oh yeah, no. That's when you add that, especially to a brand that historically hasn't had it. They lose money. I'm not. I just need data. Is all. I'm asking you if it actually has affected anything other than just sort of their public standing amongst certain people. Doomslayer says, tell me, Jaffe, what do you think would happen if a game like God of War 3 releases today? Do you think it would get canceled so hard it wouldn't sell? I don't think so. I don't think it would get canceled. I think if you made a game like God of War 3 today and you spent $200 million on it, and you had more of the things in that I do think were maybe misogynistic, but whether it was or not, that's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know. It's a great question. I have no idea. I have no idea what would happen. I certainly would probably take, if I was a CEO and all I cared about was money, I would take the offensive stuff out. And I would consider putting some of the more woke stuff in if I saw that it wouldn't be a problem. Here's what I'll tell you though. Yeah, I don't need you to send me a screenshot. I believe you. I was just asking for information and you gave it to me and I appreciate it. Jeeves says Bud Light sales have plunged an astonishing 17% after controversial collaboration, report says. Which tells you all you need to know. Again, I wouldn't have done what Budweiser did if my job was to make money. And I cared more about that than anything else. But think about the fact that you are selling to a customer so triggerable and so snowflakey that they aren't allowed to run a commercial that reflects something that they don't like. And that's enough to get them to stop drinking their beer. A lot of companies do a lot of things I don't like. But I mean, hey, I support their right to not buy the fucking beer. What do I care? Critics will probably give worse reviews, but I think it'll sell the same. Talking about God of War. Ghetto says the only way it would affect sales is if they advertise the woke stuff in the trailers. Otherwise, gamers won't know. Their share price bounced back and then dipped again, says Mr. K. It could be market fluctuations, but their sales are for sure down. That's for sure. Mr. K says it's not because they don't like it. It's because it's a political message. Well, anything they don't like is a political message, right? When is it okay to put diverse people in a commercial when it's not a message? If you don't normalize it, won't it always be a message? I don't understand that. Okay. So here's where we're at though. I certainly, if I was the CEO, I would play it safe if I cared more about money, and I should have added that, but I think I made it clear. If I cared more about money, I would go 2023 and not push it too hard. But you guys are willing to drop $200 million on something that a lot of people would say would be offensive by today's terms, but they may not be enough to matter. So maybe you're making a good business decision. 19%. Boom. Final answer right there. Why wasn't Cindy Crawford ever in a Bud Light commercial? I don't know. Jaffe, would you wear Adidas? Hang on, let me see. Would you wear Adidas, says Mr. K, if they made a MAGA line of clothes? Yes, but if they made a MAGA line of clothes that was disrespectful, like they were saying a lot of the offensive stuff Trump said on the clothes, then no. But if they're just like making a shirt that says I'm MAGA all the way or whatever, no, I don't care. If Adidas collabs with MAGA, you'll still wear the shirt. Well, I won't wear a MAGA shirt because I don't believe that. But would I wear some shoes if I wear Adidas? Sure. I have heard the word, says Nugget, that executives had a meeting saying they were going to vet any future ad campaigns much more carefully. If that's true, I think it's a bigger story than the share price. Yeah, true. I think a lot of the woke stuff is stuff nobody, even the woke crowd, asked for, and then it just looks disingenuous. But you don't ask for anything, Bukaki. Nobody asks for, who asks for anything in advertisements? It's like, if you don't push and make things more exclusive or inclusive, sorry, then nothing will ever change. The Street Fighter 6 demo is woke. I love the Street Fighter 6 demo, but what's woke about that? Oh, you guys, okay. See, that's the thing. They're not pushing an agenda. Water Princess, they just happen to have a non-binary character. That's not an agenda. Why, you're here. I mean, you're never gonna solve it, because ultimately, anything a person doesn't like, they feel is an agenda that's being pushed. That's the way it is on both sides, right? The fact that you have a non-binary character as the narrator of Street Fighter 6, I don't consider that woke. I consider that just, there are non-binary people out there, and they're more and more visible every day, and I think that's wonderful. Why is that bad? But you might consider that woke because you do think it's bad. And, you know, who do we see about that, right? All right, let's move on to the last poll of the day. The last goddamn cockadoodie poll of the day. Okay. What did Man Cave say? Thoughts on the Transformer? It's a robot. Well, where is the Transformer? If you're not joking. If it's in the movie, I don't really fucking know what the fuck the Transformers are, because are they just robots, or are they clearly seem more than just robots. They clearly seem like they have consciousness and awareness of themselves and all of that stuff. I'll tell you what, Ghetto God, we can have that conversation in a second. Remind me, because I want to get to this last topic, and then people who want to peel off, who don't really want to talk woke shit, they can just, but I do want to have that conversation if we have time. But let me get to this last topic of the day. This is what I was talking to some guys in the Discord about earlier, which is Resident Evil games. The original Resident Evil games are the only scary games. By the way, that last poll came in at, just so we know, 81% of you would go with 90s and drop $200 million. Okay. Number 6. The original Resident Evil games are the only scary Resident Evil games. That I'm voting for yes. On that. Let me put the poll up and then we'll talk for a few minutes. I was going to chat with you later tonight or tomorrow, Ricardo, at least my time. Start a poll. There we go. Okay. So here's the theory I have. The scary stuff in Resident Evil Remake 2 all up until where there are now is oozing with the trappings of horror, but it's not actual horror gaming, right? It feels to me, when I look at those games and play the modern Resident Evils, it feels to me that there are they're action games wearing the wallpaper of horror. And I love those fucking games. Resident Evil 1 and 2 and Dino Crisis and Tormented Souls and any of those, even Tormented Souls doesn't fit. Back in the day, what was actually scary in a game is not, in my theory, what is scary in a movie or a TV show. So I get scared to this day when I play RE1 original, just like I get scared when I play Elden Ring. Elden Ring to me is a scarier game than Resident Evil 7. And here's the reason why, is that if you take away the trappings, which are just kind of like, I mean, unless you just happen to be scared of looking at, a monster, what's really scary about those games is death, right? So if you have, 150,000, whatever the things you collect in Bloodborne or souls, I forget what they call them in Elden Ring, or you have a bunch of gear, you know how to solve the puzzle, you have all the pieces, but you don't have a typewriter ribbon in RE1, and you've got to make it across the mansion to get to the place where you pause the puzzle, and you're running out of ammo. That is genuinely terrifying to me, because if I die, I lose so much of my progress, right? So there's a sense of actual, I don't want this to happen. In Resident Evil 4, if I'm fighting, or Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 8, if I'm fighting the hillbillies or I'm fighting the werewolf monsters or whatever, and I die, so what? There's no fear in that game. It's a werewolf, but there's nothing disturbing about Resident Evil, right? In terms of its thematic. It's a B horror movie. It's almost like a Hammer horror movie from the 50s that's just done with a beautiful coat of paint. But if you play something like a genuine horror game that's scary, like maybe Devotion, and it's about this dad and his daughter is probably dead and he doesn't want to open the bathroom door, because if he opens the bathroom door, it's like Schrodinger's cat. He's got to, as long as the door is closed, he doesn't have to accept what happened to his daughter or find out the truth, right? And I mean, that's terror and fear and unnervedness. But running around shooting werewolves, as great as they look, is that really scary? The original Resident Evil isn't conceptually scary, but because of the camera and the limited items and the very limited briefcase, it's like 6 slots, and the typewriter and the typewriter ribbon, makes me go, the answer to this is true. And the new Resident Evil games are great, but I'm curious. So right now, 73% of you guys say no. The current Resident Evil games are just as scary, if not more. So what is it you guys are saying? Like somebody in the chat was saying Resident Evil 7 is the scariest. What is the scariest part of Resident Evil 7? Like, what is scary? The basement of Lady D's house was scary as fuck. I'm trying to remember what I remember the game, I played it to completion, but what happened in the basement? Like, I thought when that baby comes after you, it was creepy. It was weird, but it wasn't like scary to me. I'm just like, oh, it's just a big boss monster. I this morning I fought and killed, is it Ramon, the little kid looking crazy dude in RE4 Remake? And, he becomes this monster, but when the monster talks, you see him inside the mouth. It's gross. It's weird. It's scary. But it's not scary. It's just like, it's cool. Jaffe says, Kay, they're not saying the current games are scarier. They're just talking about 7. Fine, take 7. So even if you're saying RE2, RE3 Remake, RE2 Remake, RE8 Village, none of those are scary. But yes, RE7 is scarier than RE1. I would like to know why. The lore, but how is that scary, Ghetto God? The lore is better, yes. The atmosphere and the graphics are better. The characters and the story are better. I would probably agree with all of that. But what's scary about that? And again, I don't mean that like I'm saying you're wrong. Yes, I played 7 and I played it in VR and I finished it in VR. Mr. K, I'm not being a contrarian. He says Jaffe is just a unique dude. His take is almost always different. I'm genuinely curious because I like to be scared. But I'll give you a good example. The last movie trailer, or the last movie that genuinely scared me, and I haven't been scared in ages in a movie, but I love the movies that are horror movies. But like the last thing was like the Skinamarink or whatever it's called, the trailer of that, where he all you hear is in this house, in this house, in this house. And it's just these weird little shots of the house changing. I'm like, that's unnerving, right? I'm curious about, to me, that's what's scary. Just everything else is just like a monster. But yeah, I mean, so Doomslayer says basically hiding from the family in 7, like running from the family as they're chasing you is scary. The question though is, and refresh my memory, if you get caught, and I'm trying to remember who chases you, I think the dad with the shotgun or something, but if you get caught in that game and you die, what happens? Like I would say, and I don't remember, but if I get caught by the dad and shot and I die or whatever, and then I have to go back and I lose a lot of shit, okay, I would give you that is scary. I think remaking Resident Evil 7 with the Bloodborne, you drop your souls and you need to get them back or you're never, that would be scary. But as I recall, when I died in RE7, I died and I just kind of respawned at the save point, which wasn't that far from where I died. And after about 1 or 2 tries, the boss, no matter what he looked like, was just a mechanic that I had to deal with. Okay, you're saying it's just scary to look at visually. Okay, that's fine. I get that. I don't feel that way. But if you're saying there are some visuals that scare you, I will agree. To me, you're not going to find those in Resident Evil. You're going to find those in some really dark, fucking disturbing art. But certainly it is subjective in that sense. You may be scared by that giant baby coming at you. To me, let me see if I can show you. I think I can. Let me show you something really quick. I'm not trying to sell you, by the way, although I kind of am because that's what the show's about. But if I follow horror art, and I want to show you some of these artists. To me, this is the stuff I think that is really actually quite disturbing. And that's the stuff I think if I were to make a horror game, that's the stuff I would want, is something that really made me feel unnerved, right? But I don't see a lot of that in Resident Evil. What I see in Resident Evil is simply just a lot of tropey, beautiful, but, tropey monster designs. Let me see what I can find here for you. It's the stuff that's just kind of right on the verge of surreal, but not totally surreal, so you can still recognize it, and it still kind of, is disturbing. And I may not be able to pull it up at a moment's notice. I should have been more prepared. I apologize. There's one guy. I mean, even this is here. I'll show you some stuff. Even this is pretty disturbing. This is from an artist, Eugene Korolev. I'm not saying there's anything monstrous about this, but it's disturbing, right? That to me is a lot more disturbing than, oh no, it's a big scary monster. I want to find more. I'm so sorry I wasn't prepared. I didn't think I would bring this up. I just, any artist that creates stuff that freaks me out, I save, because I'm just like, there's something about this artist that really kind of, at least for me, gets the quick, oh, look at that. I haven't seen that before. Ooh. I love this artist, by the way. That's great. Look at his Sweet Tooth shit. All right, I'll show you some of his stuff, though, that I find. I've actually reached out to this guy and said, if I ever do a new Twisted Metal, I want to work with this guy. Like this sort of deformity stuff, and this stuff is weird and creepy. This is a little weird. Let's see what else we got. It's just stuff like this that's just a little bit more surreal. Like, that's creepy. You show me body horror. You fucking show me that coming at me. I'm like, okay, that's fucking weird. But do I think most horror is psychological, Daniel? I think all horror is psychological. It's nothing else. The twin victim from Silent Hill 4. Let's look that up. Let me change screens because I don't know what's going to come up. Like, it might be really, I don't fucking know what we're talking about. Twin victim Silent Hill. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good. Let me show that. Yeah, that's fucking deliciously creepy. I like that. That's from 4. What do you think is the scariest monster? If I were to look up a monster from Resident Evil, which monster do you think is the scariest? Have I seen The Thing? Oh my god, yeah, I loved it. I didn't think The Thing was scary, but boy, it was great. The scariest part to me of The Thing was when Kurt Russell is, taking the little paperclip to the blood, and you don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I fucking loved it. Okay, Verdugo, says Spazbo. Okay, hang on. Verdugo, Resident. Hey, come back over here. Let's see. No, this isn't scary to me at all. I appreciate it is to you. This just kind of looks like a typical, Winter Lanterns. Let me see. Those are in Bloodborne. What were these guys? I don't remember these guys in Bloodborne. Who were the guys in Elden Ring that were those really fucking tall, those really fucking giant things in the woods with the cloaks? Those were fucking pretty fucking freaky. Fatal Frame made you well, what was in Fatal Frame that was scary? Scariest things are the Boston Dynamics robots that stand up, sure. Gabbin and Games Halloween Seance, fuck you. Okay. Wormface. Okay, the human spider from Dark Souls. Let's look that up. Dark Souls, human spider. But everybody obviously does, have different fears, of course, but I think there is a point where things become so tropey and so rote that they just kind of fade into the zeitgeist and have no effect at all. But okay, so here's where we ended up with this last one. 65% do not agree with your Papa Jaffe. So 65% say nope, RE games are the only scary RE games. But 35% of y'all are with your Papa Jaffe. Let's go back. Let's see how the show progressed. Let's see what people thought end of the day. When it comes to Resident Evil, 65% do not agree that the only scary games are the original RE games. If you had $200 million, 81% would not go woke with it. They would think it's a good investment to go with a 90s mentality video game, and it would sell better than if you had a game that did not have the 90s elements and also had aspects of what they like to call the woke agenda. PlayStation Summer Tour, 64%. I was sold on this by Bukkake's logic. 64% of the audience thought that PlayStation needs to reveal new games this summer or soon. 36% were like, no, they don't need to. But after Bukkake's logic, I was like, yeah, I think that's a good point. They do need to. RE1 versus DMC1 remake and the RE2, RE3, RE4 remake style. 64% of the audience wanted Resident Evil, not DMC1. Resident Evil 1 classic remade, not DMC1. Fair enough. SOCOM 2023 with woke elements or don't make it at all. 47% want the game great and they can live with the woke stuff or they like the woke stuff. And 53% say if you got to put woke stuff in it, don't make it at all. PS2 era, PS5 era CEO. It's very close. Closest one of the show. Jim Ryan, 49% say he's the right guy. 51% want Shawn Layden, thinking he would be doing a better job, even with all the challenges of PlayStation today. And finally, do we want crunch or not in our games? Crunch is worth it if the games are innovative and ship without bad bugs. 80%, 79% say yeah, it's worth it. 22%, that math is wrong, but it's close. You get the idea. 78%, 22% say it's not worth it. Better to ship games that are good enough and buggy yet playable that will be fixed 1 to 2 months if you don't have to bring your team out and crunch your team. So there you go, fellas. That was the first episode, maybe the only episode. Let's put up a final poll, which is, do we like this format? This would never be the de facto, the main Gabbin' Games format, But would this be a show you would want to participate in and watch and call in and communicate with once a week, once a month? Let me put a poll up here. Do you want to see more of this? What is this thing called? Fanboy Fights format. Yes or no? Ask your community. There it is. This will guide us on if you ever see a show like this again. Darth Nugget says, I don't know. The Crunch poll seems more like, do you want buggy games? Yes or no? If we do another version of the show, I'll make sure to I'll run the polls by some people before we go live and get a sense of if it's clear. It's clear. The little Ocelot Alpha boss from Dark Souls is one of the creepiest. Let me look at that. While you guys are voting, let me look. Dark Souls Ocelot. Yeah, that's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. I don't admit they were wrong. The wonky. I admit that they could have used a pass for a little bit better clarity. A little bit better clarity. All right, so right now we got 93% of the audience said yes, I want more of this. So if you have any questions and you're a member, put them in the Calypso room in the Discord. Oh, I didn't discuss Phil. I did not discuss Phil. Shit. I'm tired now, though. I'm talked out. Okay, let's talk Phil. I promise let's do Phil. This is the last one. But I don't have a thing for it. So here we go. Let's put up a new poll. Start a QA, start a poll. All right. Should Microsoft fire Phil Spencer? That's pretty much cut and dry as you get. You guys know I like Phil Spencer. I think his vision for Xbox has been great. It has been disruptive. It has been, as a gamer, I have enjoyed the shit out of my Xbox this console round or whatever. But I do think the buck has to stop with him. And, they can't get their first party shit together. And in that, who else are you going to blame? I mean, yeah, you can blame Matt Booty, but shouldn't Phil have fired Matt Booty or at least put him somewhere else a long time ago? I don't think Phil's a bad guy, Juan. That's not the poll. I think, like I said, I don't know him personally. I've met him once, but I like what he's doing for Xbox. But ultimately, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, all of those people report in to this guy. And 30 frames on Redfall, not shipping any software day one with the Xbox, Halo being the mess even after having a year delay, very little in the way, if any, other than Hi-Fi Rush, which was already deep into production by the time he showed up. Very little in the way of new IP. Isn't there a point where you have to blame the guy and say, look, I could easily give you someone to replace him. Scott Rohde, Connie Booth, Shannon Studstill. Easy, done. All three of them. Easy. He's not a good manager. There's no debate anymore. You don't fall down this frequently, this often, this hard. LOV, good to see you, buddy. You don't fall down this fucking hard, this often, if you can manage. That's all I'm saying. But again, and I'm not a hater. I'm a goddamn 52-year-old grown-ass man. I don't hate anything it's ridiculous. Xbox makes a great piece of hardware. They make great software. No, it doesn't, Mr. Orange. Mr. Orange says Xbox still exists. That proves he is good. That's not true. That's not true at all. They fire Phil. They're going to hire Bobby Kotick. I'll tell you what. I can't stand Bobby Kotick. If there's a fucking devil, it's Bobby Kotick. But he's done a good job at a financial level of releasing content like clockwork that makes people a lot of fucking money, which is because the gamers clearly like it enough that they just keep pouring cash into his fucking pockets. So yeah, do I think Kotick would be better than Phil Spencer at the job? Goddamn right. You goddamn right. But I hate Bobby Kotick. Why aren't mental disease games a thing, says Man Cave. Thanks, buddy, for the super chat. Recreating conditions like blindness, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, is the gamification hard or narrative? I don't know. I've never tried it. I would say what's challenging is, I think what's challenging about it is you want to be careful because, you know, you can make a narrative about that, but when you use it as a, like, I'll give you a great example. When we did Black and we set Black in an asylum, or at least the beginning of it, I was still in the world where that kind of mental illness was entertainment. Oh my God, you're so crazy. You're in a straitjacket, thrown into a hole because you're fucking out of your fucking mind. These days, I wouldn't do it that way. I would still make a bunch of fucking crazy carnival freaks, but I wouldn't tie them to the mental health scenario. And I wouldn't tie them to mental health hospitals because it's disrespectful to, it's kind of like making fun of someone who has cancer. It's like, you know, mental health is something that you can work on and get better, and in a lot of ways get quote cured from. And to sell it like being in a mental institution is some sort of that means you're crazy, that means you're evil, that means you're wrong, that means you're bad. I don't think I would do that, but I would still play with fucking out of their mind carnival freaks. But I think we know more about mental health now, so I think as long as it was handled in a way that was respectful to the fact that a lot of people suffer and a lot of people are shamed because of mental health, then yeah, I think it would be fine. Admiral Kurd says you have to see Phil though through at least the first major year, but how many times does the guy get roped to hang himself with, Admiral? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if it's not this, then it's going to be, oh, you have to wait until Xbox. Oh, they didn't get, wait until Activision. Oh, the Activision deal didn't go through. They're going to buy Capcom now. We got to wait because the Activision deal didn't go through. We got to see how I mean, it's like there's a point where you only get so many do-overs. And I think he's gone well beyond the amount of do-overs that anyone rightly should have, especially in a company that they're running it. Educational, not for entertainment or fun, Man Cave. I'll tell you what, man. How do I put this? I'm going to talk about this on Gabbin' and Games Gold, which is the members only Gabbin' and Games I do this week. But there's a couple of reviews that dropped this month, and I know gamers would hate what I'm going to say on them, which is the same thing I said when I was hiding behind a desk in a mall playing a mode of Fortnite. And I said it kind of felt like what I imagined being in a school shooting would be like. And people got so mad at me. It's like, it's just a game. It's just a game. And I'm like, until people allow themselves or to start looking at games the way we look at other art forms, which is to say metaphorically, and to say games can be about things at a subtextual level. It doesn't always have to be on the nose. Then I think you are going to have a hard time making a game really about mental illness that hits, because people aren't really trained to look at games in a more literary sense. But hopefully we will get there, because games more than any other medium are capable of really expressing subtext in a way that really does hit home. I find it odd the guy who is presiding over Xbox Has No Games era still has a job. Who is that guy? Donald Woody says, I find it odd the guy who is presiding over Xbox Has No Games era. Do you mean Jim Ryan? if you mean Jim Ryan, I mean, the guy's making these guys all kinds of money. I haven't played Hellblade. I haven't played it. I need to. Jigsaw. Okay, well, okay, so there's the show. It sounds like we want another one of these. I'll do another one in a couple of weeks. If it hasn't worn out its welcome, I'll do another one. You know, but the typical format will stay. But I wanted to give it a try, and I'll try another one. But right now, 55% of the people seem to think Phil Spencer should be fired. 45% say they shouldn't. My take is a little nuanced, but I didn't include it. My answer is no, but you got to bring in somebody to do the management. At Sony Pictures, for the longest time, Sony Pictures was run by, I'm trying to remember their names, Amy Pascal and Michael Linden or something. She did the creatives. She did dealing with the stars and all that. He did the business. If Phil Spencer gets somebody brought in to sort of yin to his yang, I think that man could be fucking unstoppable with his vision. And I want to see that because I think it's a good vision for the industry. But without that, if they're not going to do that, then yes, they need to let him go or remove him and put someone else and put him somewhere. And same with Matt Booty. Those guys have had enough chances. It's ridiculous. You can blame it on bad luck. You can blame it on this, that, the other. That's fair. But how many times does that card get to be played? It's a little ridiculous to me. Mr. K says, Jaffe, is this just you trying to get hired by Xbox? No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't fucking do it. I could not do that job. I had a lawyer once tell me that I couldn't. What did he say? He says I couldn't. Something like manage my. He said it was a good insult. I've forgotten it, but no, I could not fucking do it. Well, yeah, but sweet Young says Pete Hines takes care of Bethesda, not Booty. The buck has to fucking stop somewhere. You know, how many excuses? Oh, that's Pete Hines' department. Well, that's like saying that if Sony Santa Monica keeps missing deadlines, then ultimately that's a Yumi Yang problem. Well, yeah, it's a Yumi Yang problem, but it's also a Scott Rhodey problem, and then ultimately it's a Herman Holtz problem, because eventually someone, if you're not going to step in and fix the problem, that's the problem. So, you know, I mean, and more importantly, as it relates to Redfall, again, you don't print the goddamn cover art and the back of the box art for your software for Redfall and say it has 60 frames and not call back. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. You don't do that and go like that means you're sure it's going to be at 60. Don't tell me that the QA guys, if not a lot of other people, weren't letting Microsoft know this ain't shipping at 60. But for some reason, they either didn't care or didn't know or don't have the kind of structure in place that the QA team can go and kick it up the chain to go, dude, this ain't 60. How long ago you think they printed the box? It wasn't a year ago. I mean, it was probably 3 months ago, 3-4 months before the game ships. They don't know if they're shipping at a 60 frame per second game. You out of your mind? Come on now. Hello, it's Jaffe. What's up?
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. I'm Purple Zuka on the in the chat.
All right. Good to meet you. Good to see you in person. What's going on? What do you want to talk about, good sir?
Yeah. Well, first I just want to say, and I know everyone else has said this, so it sounds like a broken record, but thank you for making God of War, man. Without that, we wouldn't have the franchise where it is today. So thank you.
A lot of people made it with me, but on behalf of all of us, you are very welcome, and thank you for playing our game. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch this later in the playback. But
cool.
So I want to ask a question. I don't know if you could give any insider advice for me. I'm actually going to be moving to Japan soon, and I just wondered if you had any general advice or specific advice for someone who's moving for the first time, especially for me because I'm moving to another country. I don't know if you had any insight or any words to that.
I really don't. I mean, I've been to Japan twice. It's a wonderful country, at least what I experienced. I loved it. But I've never moved to another country. And the only time I've ever moved to another state was going from Alabama to college when I was 18, which was, many, many years ago. So my only advice would be, my only advice for challenging times is the same advice always, which is meditate. Because you will be able to be grounded and you will be able to be centered and you'll be able to rise above the moment that you're in and recognize that you're just watching a play, which is life. And so all of the stress and homesickness and fear and all the normal things that will come up when you are making a big move or a big change like that, that is you, but there is a bigger version of you that sits above your brain and your thoughts, and allow yourself to tune into that when you're feeling really stressed or sad or homesick, because that's what will see you through. That would be my only advice I can offer.
Well, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Appreciate your kind words. And
of course, good luck. And I'm sure before you know it, it'll feel like home. And boy, it's a cool place. I hope you have a great time.
I have one more question before I go. So I know before a while back you said that you probably weren't gonna go back to playing Ragnarok. Do you still feel the same way?
Yeah, I have zero interest. There's nothing like Elden Ring. I come back to every couple of weeks, and I'm almost done with it. I will not finish that game. There has not been a single desire since I deleted it from my hard drive to go back to play Ragnarok. Not a single desire.
Well, do you think that they're gonna continue it, or do you want it to continue? If so, where would you like to see the series go?
Well, I think it's clear they're going to continue it. They should. Most people adored Ragnarok, thought it was game of the year. I'm assuming they're going to Egypt next. But I think here's what I honestly think, though. I think I could be wrong, and it's they didn't reboot God of War 2018 until God of War Ascension didn't do as well as they wanted in sales. So I don't think Ragnarok is to be looked at. I mean, I don't know the sales figures, but I think it did incredibly well. I don't think anybody would look at Ragnarok and go, dude, we need to change the formula. But I can tell you, I think it needs a formula change, because I think what made 2018 so special was not just the fact they changed the formula and not just the fact that it was incredibly well executed, but the very narrative of Corey changing the formula and what he changed it to and why he needed to change it, that in and of itself was probably a big part of why it was so special and why it was so cool. Ragnarok is a reflection of that change without that narrative. And as a game, I think it's just kind of flat. And so I think someone needs to come to them and say, whether it's Eric or Corey or someone from the outside, and say, if you're going to keep God of War going, you need to find its reason to be. You need to find why it exists, what its heartbeat is, what its spirit is. And that needs to be your North Star. Because I think just continuing to make an over-the-shoulder, prestige, expensive, third-person game, I think you're going to start seeing diminishing returns on that series if they just keep it the same, which is a great series, but I think it's kind of boring.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely, I have mixed feelings about Ragnarok. I finished the main story only, like maybe in a week and a half. And there's a lot of things I liked about it, but then there's just some other things where I was just like, I didn't feel as strongly as I did with 2018.
I hear you. I'm the same. I'm the same. Listen, when are you moving to Japan?
I move in late May.
All right. Here's the good news. Here's the good news.
Soon.
Do you watch the show a lot?
When I can.
Either my show or any show. Here, my point is this. The neat thing about the internet and streaming in general is you can always connect with people wherever you are. So We wish you luck.
Right.
I would love for you to call back when you're settled and let us know how it's going. But have a safe, great trip, and thank you for calling, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, no, thank you for taking my call.
Anytime.
Love your content. Love what you do. So.
Thanks, man. I'll see you soon. Bye. There he goes. Good luck going to Japan, man. Addy Pie says the new God of Wars were pleasant experiences. Now they go on for too long. I felt that way about the new one. What is up? It's Jaffe. Hello. He hung up or I hung up? I don't think I did, though. Absolutely purple. Doomslayer, this is interesting. This is the problem I think people have with meditation. Doomslayer says, when I meditate, my mind can't help but think about things. It never goes empty and peaceful. It never will. That's the whole point. I'll tell you about it in a second. Okay, I'm going to hang up. I hit answer. Are you there? If it happens again, I'm just going to turn off the red phone. You can call in on the Discord if you want. In fact, I'll turn it off now. It's annoying. Let me turn that off. I'm going to bring in, I think this guy wants to talk. Are you there? It's Jaffe. Hello? Aliz, XZA. Anyway, while we're waiting for him, the whole point is, it's not... The whole point is you're supposed to recognize that your mind won't shut up, right? It's not about sitting there and having some... I mean, you can have revelations, of course, through meditation. But when you're meditating, what it is doing is training your mind to recognize how noisy your mind always is. Because what that does is it makes space for you when you're not meditating, that if you're in a stressful situation or you're getting angry or you're just taking a walk or whatever, you build the muscle that can recognize, oh, I see my thinking. And as you do that, you transcend from that sense of you to the sense of you above it, which is just like, oh, my thoughts are not me. My thoughts are just this part of me, but I'm actually way up here. But you're supposed to do meditation where your mind won't shut up. It's about building the recognition muscle so you can recognize your mind in the real world and not be a slave to it. That's what I have found, and it has given me great things for it. And I don't do it anywhere near as much as I could benefit from. So, I'm not dodging anybody's. I didn't block anybody. I got a guy in the diet soda room right now. I didn't block P Turtle. I don't see him. I don't, Jay the Gamer says you can't complain and say Ragnarok is safe with no risk. Last of Us 2 took a risk and everyone hated it. I didn't hate it. I loved it. And I'm not saying Ragnarok's story is safe. I'm saying the game is boring. I'm saying the game is, its cadence is dull. The combat's really cool. The production is amazing. The graphics are nice. Some of the puzzle design is excellent. Some of the audio in that game, the music and the voice and the sound is best of the year. I'm not knocking it. I think it's really poorly paced. I don't think the deal is dead, Dior. I think that if you Google Michael Pachter CBS Activision deal and you watch that, he makes a couple of very compelling points to suggest that it's not dead at all. And Microsoft is going to go back to them and say, okay, you're asking us basically not to put Call of Duty in the cloud. We'll do that. And then we'll get the deal. But that's Pachter. I believe what he's saying. A lot of people in this chat say they don't, but I don't have any wisdom or insider education. But I would believe that with Pachter. Meditating is to make your noisy thoughts feel normal and more constant. No, it's not to make them feel normal and constant. It's to recognize that's what's happening to you most of your waking life. And in recognizing it, you can behave in a different way. Most people walk around thinking they are their thoughts. Most people walk around and it's like, I got to do this. Maybe she's thinking this about me. I got to do this and I got to do that. And I'm in this meeting with this guy and I want to raise, but okay, I hope he gives it to me. What did my wife say? You know, that not only brings you to madness, but it totally kicks your legs out from underneath you. If you were able to sit with that and go, okay, these are my thoughts. I'm having these thoughts, but that's not me. And this entire thing is not me. I'm this isness above all of this. It's like watching a play. And then you can go, okay, how do I need to handle the situation? And there's a peacefulness. There's a calmness that comes no matter the situation you're in, because your situation is just a play. Is the best I can explain it. I didn't ban anybody. I have Alex is saying, oh, Alex, okay, I'm going to pull you into the right room. I had you in the wrong room, buddy. Hang on. Okay, how about now? Is this not Alex, but can you hear me? You should be able
Hey, David.
Hey, there you are. What's up, man?
Yeah, I think I just Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Very good. How are you?
I'm really good. This is one of the most weirdest thing I've ever done in my entire life because.
Well, again, you've got to put your penis in the
this...
vagina. If you start putting it in the butthole first and you've never done it in the vagina, it's going to feel weird. Eventually, you can make that choice and it feels like a nice option. But if you start with the butthole, you're going to be in all kinds of trouble. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, we're past that. We're really past it.
Okay.
Well, I want to start this off by saying one thing that I think everyone has told you. I actually got to play God of War. Like, I want to say I was literally a teenager. Like back when it went out, and I remember no one really knew about this, and I just went to this shop and I just picked up this copy of God of War, and I did not know what it was.
Okay.
And I just loved it. And one thing which I really wanted to thank you for is just I got to literally go through my whole moving out of the country and immigration thing because of Sony and because of you guys, because it actually made me to study somewhat the English language, because English is not my mother tongue. So it is literally because of you and because of what you do. So it's like most of the time we do all these things and we don't really understand the impact that we have on other people's lives. So from the bottom of my heart, Jaffe, I really thank you, and I do truly appreciate what you guys are doing, and I really hope that you know the worth and all the things that you've done and all the impact that you have had on this world. So thank you very much for
again, Mr. K makes fun of me, but on behalf of all of us who made it, I say thank you. And I also say that as I have gotten older, I have, and maybe it's an age thing, I couldn't tell you, but as I've gotten older, I have begun to recognize the positive impact the work that we did had on people. And I just never, when you're making it, you don't think about it. And until you're able to really meet people and they explain it, you're like, oh, I'm glad you liked the game. But now it's like, no, this actually helped people have a little bit more joy in their life, or a little bit more this or that. I love hearing it, and I love hearing it in that perspective. So I'm so grateful for you saying that and for you sharing that. Thank you for calling.
Yes, of course. And I just wanted to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
And that was basically the fact that I don't really know why, but I really like this channel to grow more because your content is really superb.
Thanks.
I'm just being honest. It's not just
I appreciate it.
And I don't know if it's because of the advertisement, because of the YouTube thingy that's got going on, but I think your views has to be much, much, much more higher. And I don't know what the problem here is.
My accountant would agree.
Is really great.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I don't know. What's your theory? Give me a theory. Give me a theory. What do you think the number one reason is this channel is not bigger?
Well, if I had to actually think about it on the spot, I would say...
I certainly don't know. I'm trying everything.
It's just I'm all out of ideas. But what I do know is
well,
that
if you think of something, call me and let me know.
Getting more recognition. I think you've been getting more recognition in the past, I want to say, in the past 6 months, more than like the past or like 2 years. I don't know if I'm quite right in that area, but I think you're on the track. But I really like to just see you like with like much more views and just so many different content because of that, because I really do believe that you really deserve it. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that's very kind. I appreciate it very, very much. And more importantly, thank you for being part of our community, and thank you for calling, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. Have a good week.
Thanks.
All right. You guys think I'm ignoring P Turtle. I'm not. P Turtle. He's ignoring me. He's like, I got to get these grapes out of my mouth first. The number one reason is you don't conform to expectations. Mr. Orange says, what are the expectations? The channel isn't bigger because 70% of my takes are bad. You might be the only dude who's taking Pactor serious. Here's what I'll tell you to that Bacon Magma. Then I will tell you that I don't, if an audience member is too stupid that they think I'm taking Pactor serious for no reason, then I don't want them as part of my audience. I have said numerous times regarding the CBS interview he did as it relates to the Activision Microsoft deal. He has read the CMA document, and he explained to CBS why his reading of the document makes it clear that the CMA is giving Microsoft a very clear message, which is make this one change and we will approve it. And I haven't read it, and you haven't read it, and most of the gamers haven't read it. Now, if you have facts to suggest why his reading of that document is wrong, awesome. But if you're saying people don't come to me because I take him serious about a certain thing he said that I offered up as evidence, and you have nothing but a child's response of, he's stupid, he's wrong, then fuck you. Why would I want you in my audience? All right, man. Bye, you guys. Thank you for watching the chat. Thank you for the passion. I will see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.